Hulk. Hulk, 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 Hulk. Hulk. Hulk, 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 Hulk.
I'm Eric Bana. I'm the Hulk.
Hulk. Hulk, Hulk, Hulk,
Hulk.
Hulk,
Hulk, Hulk.
Here is Nick Nolte. He's my dad.
Hulk.
He messed with my jeans. Now I turn green. He also fights in the clouds and he made some Hulk dogs. Hulking the Hulk. You're making me podcast.
Okay.
You wouldn't like me when I podcast.
I figured you'd do Nolte.
Well, I'm going to do a lot more Nolte as we get into this.
Because it's like your thing.
Go with the most iconic.
Does he say you wouldn't like me? Does he say that right at the end?
Yes.
Because he only says you're making me angry that first time.
It's a Talbot, and at the end he says it in Spanish.
You know.
I took some creative license.
I'm not criticizing you. I'm criticizing the movie.
Impossible. You can't criticize this movie.
True.
It's an American masterpiece.
It's just, this is a sort of a tangent rant. Let's just begin with it.
Right off the bat. Okay.
You know what I mean? Where movies feel obligated to say a line, right?
Uh-huh.
You know, sometimes this happens.
Yes.
Where it's sort of like, oh, well, it's the iconic line. And they try and find like a cute way to do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a little too cute. Like, oh, we'll have him say it in Spanish. Like BB-8, like, oh, he'll say I have a bad feeling about this. We slipped it in there, and you're like, okay.
But the first time he says it, even though he doesn't finish it, it's pretty earned.
It is, yes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Griffin Newman.
David Sims.
This is Blank Check with Griffin and David. It's a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their career and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. And sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they bounce, baby.
Right, and sometimes they clear and then bounce with this one.
Yeah. Sometimes they leap.
This one looked like it had cleared. And then it was like, oh. Yeah. Yes.
But sometimes your checks bounce through the desert. Long.
Yep. And a cluster bomb hits
arcing bounces. Your eyes close the wind. Pushing against your green face.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first big blank check movie. No, because I'd say Ride with the Devil.
Ride with the Devil, but that's like a small blank check.
Right.
This is but it's a funny one because it's like also like when he signed on, so many people were like, oh, what has become of cinema that like this great director is going to do a superhero movie. Like, bleh. Like it was a real thing.
Yeah.
So is it a blank check?
It's 100%
I mean, it is. The product is.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Especially when you read what this movie had been in the previous stages of development for the decade leading up to this.
Agreed. But I guess my counter argument is like after Spider-Man, or no, I guess Spider-Man was going to be a hit. They started before Spider-Man. We know that.
Before.
We talked about it. But still, I guess after X-Men and stuff, like a studio, giving you money to make a Hulk movie is, like they do that, right?
I got anecdotes we're going to get into.
Oh, I know.
The movie we're talking about today, it's got a one-word title. Don't you mistitle this movie, because people do, and I hate it. I'm not looking at you, producer Rachel. Yeah, that's right.
She doesn't have a mic, so she can just shrug.
We got producer Rachel here, the queen of the shrugs.
Because Ben is late.
Ben is late. He forgot when we were recording in a real Griff move.
Yeah, really. It was a nice send-off to you.
And we got Rachel, who takes none of our bullshit.
That is true.
Rachel is the Hulk of Audio Boom.
Okay.
We make her angry.
She's wearing sort of a greenish hoodie.
She is. And drinking out of a purple bottle. Green and purple.
Hulk colors.
Yeah. Don't you feel like you have to be more well-behaved? I guess this applies more for me than you.
Yes.
When Rachel's here.
Yes.
We're just sitting up straight.
I know, we're sitting up straight. We're like, let's have a discussion.
We're serious men. Of course, we're hashtag the two friends.
The two serious men.
Hashtag the two serious men is a competitive advantage. No podcast feature self-serious young white men.
Right. The film we're talking about, well, no, you were setting up the title, and then we went on a long tangent.
Yeah, title of this movie is Hulk.
It is Hulk.
Hulk.
Which is, now that I never thought about it, but it is odd that it's just called Hulk.
Because it was announced as the Hulk, and then they were like, no.
Lose the.
Yeah.
It's cleaner.
Yeah. Sean Parker was a producer on this movie.
Yeah, of course.
Doing a mini-series on the films of Ang Lee. It's called Brooke Pod Mountcast.
Right.
Yeah. Every time I'm preparing to say the title of the miniseries,
You always forget if it's podcast
no,
mount.
I just worry I'm going to fuck it up, and it feels like I've just noticed a deer in the middle of the road. Like I'm trying to slow down or swerve around it. Broke pod mount cast.
You did it.
I did it. This is my favorite Ang Lee film by a nautical mile.
That's interesting. It's not my favorite Ang Lee film. No. But, I love this film.
I don't know.
I know it's a favorite of yours.
Yeah,
obviously.
I don't know if I'd argue it's his best.
Sure.
Like, qualitatively, but
he's made so many good movies.
He's made a lot of good movies.
This podcast has been huge for me in terms of like
realizing how
rewatching all those movies.
Yeah.
Exactly. And just being like, wow, like he's not like an 8 out of 10 director. He's like a consistent 9 or 10 out of 10 director.
Fastballs.
Yeah.
He really does.
Yeah. I mean, the latter half is a little mixed.
Gets a little gamier. Yeah.
But,
this first
up
half
to
has
here,
been a joy.
Yeah. It really has been.
Yeah. And we might go against the popular consensus on some of the later half stuff.
Maybe. You think so? Are you thinking of Life of Pi?
Yeah.
Because I think that's the only one where there is a popular... I mean, unless you hate Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah.
Maybe you've been nursing that and you're
I think there's certain types of people who hate Brokeback Mountain.
Okay.
I don't know. Brokeback haters? No, I mean, like, but you remember at the time, like, all the people who were like, John Wayne would be spitting in his grave.
Vaguely.
I hated those people.
Uh-huh.
But a bunch of David Banners, they were. The
Hulk.
No, David Banner.
Yeah, he's the dad. He's
dad.
He's the absorbing man. I don't know. He's
kind of, and he's kind of Zizzax.
Yeah. He's I don't know. He's a little bit maestro.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not a villain in the... They didn't choose one of the Hulk's villains. I guess Thunderbolt Ross, but apart from that, like, they didn't dip into the Hulk's, like, villain pool, really.
No. I think in the comics his name is Brian Banner.
Yes.
David Banner was the name of the alter ego in the Bill Bixby show.
Yes.
He wasn't Bruce.
I know, because of some weird...
Yeah.
I can't remember what the reason for... Was it a copyright reason, or did they just think, like, Bruce is a bad name?
It sounds like a hippie.
Exactly. I need a good, strong man like David.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, you ask me, David sounds pretty weak.
Yep, you're right.
But they combined the name with the old character arc and then gave him sort of powers of a different character.
Yeah.
Which would never happen.
That wouldn't fly now. Yeah.
Weirdly, you know what kind of weirdly is similar? Iron Man 2 Whiplash is kind of Crimson Dynamo.
Yes.
They kind of mashed those two up.
100% they did. Yes. Yeah. No, they've done it in Marvel, but the only time they did it to a major character was the Mandarin thing.
Yeah.
And that the people were mad about
People
that,
are
even though
still
that was like the
fucking
right
mad about
call.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. On my like dorky like action figure message boards, people talk about buying the Mandarin toys and then being like, but I'm going to pretend it's the real guy. When I put it on my shelf, I'm going to pretend it's the real guy. And it's like, whatever helps you sleep at night? Shut the fuck up.
I'm just letting you sit in my action figure message boards.
That's
monologue.
That is the 15th least embarrassing thing I've said this hour.
I know. Yes. Yeah. And you like, got coffee this morning probably and said 6 embarrassing things.
Yeah. I said extra raspberry, please.
Hulk. 2003.
Hulk.
We were going to do Hulking the Hulk way back when.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this was going to be one of our first one-offs when we were still in the Star Wars days.
Yeah.
Because I think this is, like...
It's a fascinating movie. We both think this is, like, a totally fascinating movie.
And such a
And it's only
quintessential...
gotten more fascinating as the, like, superhero genre emerged after it. Like,
right, and I think this is exactly the kind of movie you only get to make when industry's in a weird transitional state.
Sure.
Right?
They're trying to figure out what these movies even are.
Exactly. You haven't really cast the die yet or set the mold for these things. But also, this is the kind of movie you get to make when you direct a foreign language film that makes $120 million.
For sure. Right. Exactly.
And that's like the blank check phenomenon that you and I talk about, which isn't just like, oh, I made a hit. It's like, how did that work?
Right. You did something that on paper would never go.
Right. So the studio just has to give you money because they can't rip you off. They're like, they've figured something out. We need to give them another at bat.
And beyond that, it's like they'll even give you a property like this one, a beloved comic book character.
Right.
And you're going to say, like, I'm going to do these 5 things that a lesser director would just get slapped down for. And this is a movie that was in development hell for decades.
Right.
So it's not like people had come with takes and the studio would always be like, no, I don't think so. Like, so. And Ang Lee's like, yeah, I want it to look like a comic book and it's going to be about like boiling Freudian rage. And like, I'll play the Hulk. And they're like, yeah, do it.
That's like what's fascinating about this movie is he like plays both extremes where it's like you have these dramatic scenes that you would never see in a comic book movie ever again.
No.
But then he visually designs those scenes to look like a comic book.
It's crazy. It's a crazy movie to watch.
So much of this movie is Jennifer Connelly talking to her father.
Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah.
Like, I was watching this time
I
and
forgot
realizing,
how quickly it all goes down in this movie.
I love, but then also it takes 45 minutes for the Hulk to show up.
That's the thing. It's a long-ass movie.
220.
But you don't get much time with Bruce, like, before, like, the accident. You know what I mean? Like, you get, like, 5 minutes with him.
And then post-accident...
And one of them is, like, a bit about his bike helmet. Like...
Post-accident, you get a lot of Betty time. Like,
a lot of Betty and
really
not much Bruce.
No,
Bruce is kind of a cipher. Like, he's... hard to understand.
Betty's kind of the lead of this movie.
Kind of, but she is, she gets a little, I mean, it's a thankless role in every version of the Hulk.
Yes.
It's a tough role.
Kills it, though.
She's good. She's good. Coming off an Oscar herself.
Yes. This was like her immediate follow-up.
Pretty much, yeah.
So a little bit of context, because I don't know if you know this, but we're connoisseurs. Pow. In the late 80s, early 90s, more the 90s, when, Marvel was in dire financial straits, the big thing that happens at Marvel is they had been mismanaged by Ron Perlman, not Hellboy, the other one.
Right. The one, P-E-R-L, not P-E. No, P-E-R-L is the good one, I think.
I think no.
Are they both?
I think our actor friend has an A in his name.
He does not.
Oh, then it's the other way around.
Checked.
It's the other way around. Rachel shaking her head.
It's the
We're
one,
idiots. Rachel has such contempt for us.
Yeah, as she should. It's the one spelled like, the thing from the ocean.
Yes. So
I don't fucking know.
There's
also Lou Pearlman. There's a lot of bad Pearlmans.
Yes. He buys Marvel. Nearly runs it into the ground.
You know what? It's spelled the same way.
Okay, well, let's talk about this for 15 more minutes. Mm-hmm. He nearly runs the company into the ground. You
know what? It's spelled Perelman.
Jeez.
I finally figured it out. It's just hard to figure out.
P-E-R-E-L?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Right. And is he the one who owns like the toy company?
Well,
or is that that's Ike Perlmutter?
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Ike Perlmutter, Avi Arad,
right,
are toy guys.
Are they the ones who rescue Marvel?
This is what I'm telling you.
Go ahead. Yes, yeah.
So Perlman nearly runs Marvel into the ground.
And that's in the mid-90s, like after the speculation boom, when comics are hot in the early 90s. So they're like, let's make so many comics. Like, this will go forever. Darkhawk.
Right.
Like, they're just throwing shit out there.
But they're even getting into trouble like early 90s, The speculation boom is
you think
it's
of
a bubble that collapses.
You think of X-Men issue 1, which I think is 91, where they had like 12 covers and you got to buy them all.
And your first printing was like 15 million issues.
Yeah.
Toy Biz is the company that has the Marvel rights. And the X-Men toys are so humongous at the time of the cartoon.
Yeah.
That they make such an insane amount of money that when Marvel is on the brink of bankruptcy, they buy out Marvel.
Right.
Which is insane. The company that licensed
the
properties managed their money from selling the characters so much more successfully that then Ike Perlmutter takes care.
That's in 1997. Yes. Right. 98, sorry.
Right. And Avi Arad, who also comes from the toy industry, they're both Israeli toy men.
Yep.
He gets put in charge of trying to make money by selling off the intellectual property into different mediums.
Right. No one has that idea of let's do our own movies. It's just like, hey, someone wants to Pay us X for the Hulk? Great.
Avi Arad essentially becomes a used car salesman.
But I mean, this is also, it's back in the day where that idea is so silly that there would be a linked universe. Like, make a Hulk movie. Who cares?
But he would do these interviews when he was like promoting Spider-Man, and he'd be like, yes, and we have Doctor Strange set up at Lionsgate.
Yeah, right.
Iron Fisted, Artisan Pictures. Like, they had sold there was like a Deathlock movie. Like, none of these, but they had
Deathlock.
Every single, like, vaguely valuable property they had was set up somewhere.
Deathlock was so good because it was like, what if he was a cyborg, but he's also like an assassin? He's like it was like all of the 90s shit. Even though he's from back in the day.
Ryan Reynolds was supposed to do Deathlock in like 2001. I think it was at Lionsgate or Artisan. They sold off a bunch of the cheap ones to Lionsgate and Artisan before they merged.
Right.
But like Paramount was going to do Iron Man with Tom Cruise.
Sure.
You know, there were all these different ones set up in different places. Yeah. And Hulk was one that Universal had for a bit.
I believe they bought it in like the early 90s.
Yeah. It was sort of on the edge of the sword, the tip of the spear, because of how big the TV show had been.
Yes.
He was so much a part of the sort of cultural iconography.
It's true. I think it's why the Hulk and Spider-Man lingered for the public in ways more than the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, or the other Iron Man. It's like, they had like live action network shows. Yeah. Especially the Hulk, which was like a real show. I mean, it's like...
And it was a beloved show.
It was super lame, but it was on network TV.
They essentially made it a procedural. Here's a homeless wanderer.
Right.
I mean, a procedural combined with like a Clint Eastwood Western where it's like he rolls into town, he finds the problem, he tries to avoid turning into the Hulk, and then he has to
turn into the Hulk and throw a bunch of people. Right. And it was like very cheap looking, and it always ended with him hitchhiking and
he rides off into another town.
It was sort of quantum leapy.
Yes.
You know.
But that show was beloved, played syndication forever, and they kept on making TV movies until 1990.
Okay.
I mean, the show ends early 80s, and for like...
The final TV movie is The Death of the Incredible Hulk in 1990.
So, like, right after that, that's when they start getting serious about trying to make a film.
Yes. In 1992, Avi Arad and Gale Ann Hurd, Gale Ann Hurd of Terminator fame and others, set this up at Universal.
Yeah. And this is going to be a serious movie. And she's, at the time, I believe, married to Jonathan Hensley.
Yeah.
Who later goes on to do the Punisher film. That was like the mea culpa project they threw his way.
Sure. For kicking him off this one.
Right. But they were developing it with a lot of different people. Michael France,
who wrote Cliffhanger and GoldenEye. He writes a script. Universal wanted a script where the Hulk fights terrorists.
Yeah.
Michael France didn't like that. So someone else comes in, John Turman, and he writes more of like a classic, like Hulk versus the military, you know.
Thunderbolt Ross.
And I think Leader is involved. So...
And then I think they don't like that very much.
They don't like it, but I guess that becomes like the absolute baseline. Like it's sort of like
weirdly
that script is still in the ether,
right? Because he gets credit on this film. Right?
The credit for this film is crazy,
weird.
Yeah.
But it was very much a time where if you're buying a superhero property and then the writer comes in and goes like, so he's gonna fight the leader, they'd be like, why are you using characters from the comics?
Yeah,
we bought the Hulk. Let's just have him fight whatever we feel like fighting.
Right.
Because then when Hensley takes over the project as the main writer, and he was supposed to direct it for a while.
He was going to direct it.
They had worked up. He'd never directed a film. Gale Ann Hurd pushed really hard for him and got him the job. And that movie was going to be Hulk fights mutant bug people.
He was going to fight some mutant bug people. There's some concept art out there of mutant bug people. There
Makeup
you go,
tests.
Rachel. That's a mutant bug.
Hulk was going to be an animatronic.
Mutant bug, Rachel.
You can find the YouTube videos of the giant, like 15-foot robot they had for the Hulk.
Amazingly enough, Jonathan Hensley convinced the studio with his work writing Jumanji.
Yeah, that was the thing.
But then...
Joe Johnston was going to do it.
Then they bring in Joe Johnston.
Draft. I think that's how he gets on is because of Jumanji. Joe Johnston wanted Hensley. Joe Johnston leaves to do October Sky. Hensley takes over the director's chair.
Yes. Turman comes back to write 2 more drafts. So I think that's why he gets the credit, because he kept coming back and like changing his original script that had already been changed beyond recognition. Zach Penn wrote a script in which Hulk fights sharks.
Yeah, see, it's all the shit where it's like, just have him fight scary things.
He also wrote a scene where Hulk is kicked out of a helicopter and turns into the Hulk, which eventually made it all the way to the Marvel movie, later.
Which also, Marvel does that beat
They
four times?
They do it a lot. Oh, look who it is.
Oh, look who walked in. Oh, my Lord.
Here he
if it
is.
isn't the Ben Juicer himself. Ben Mad. Producer Ben Green with rage over here. Poet laureate. Tiebreaker. Haas, Mr. Positive, Mr. Positive. Birthday Benny, Soaking Wet Benny. Peeper. I'm going to do this until Ben can successfully get to his seat. He's a fart detective. He's a meat lover.
Thank you, Rachel.
Finest film critic. Thank you, Rachel. Rachel's now... But she's bursting through the wall. And
My God.
She's picked up a tank and she's throwing it around the office. She says she hates blank check. Must be destroyed. Goodbye, Fennel, Rachel.
Hi, Ben.
So where did we?
Fuckmaster. He's
Oh.
not Professor Crispy. He's graduated to certain titles of the course of different miniseries, such as Kylo Ben, producer Ben Kenobi, Ben Sate,
Oh, great.
Ben Night Shyamalan, Say Anything, ... Ailey Benz with a $sign, Warhaz, Purduer Bane, Ben 19, the Fennel Maker, Robohaz, Benglish, Mr. Ben Credible.
Sure.
Oh, I like that. Yes. So I'm here. I forgot we rescheduled. I was watching the Hulk.
Uh-huh.
And so Rachel was nice enough to step in.
Yes.
And I'm here now.
Now you're here.
So what the fuck?
Okay,
What's
so
up?
we're talking about the development
What the
process
What the fuck?
of this movie. They pull the plug. They were like casting actors. They were in active pre-production. They pulled the plug.
Which one is this?
On
This
the Hensley directed.
Yeah, right.
And
right. It was set to They had Arizona location scouted, and then they pull the plug.
Right, because they just went $100 million too high, never directed a film, untested, all of this.
Abrams, Scott Alexander, and Larry Karaszewski all come in to like rewrite the script.
Right, and they're like starting over. Let's find something new angle. But they're kind of like in a rut, right? Now,
this whole thing with the Beatles is so dumb. Thank God
weird
they
with
never
the bug
did
people.
That. Yeah,
but also, can you?
Ben, they were gonna do a whole Hulk movie where he fights bugs, like giant bugs. I guess Men in Black could come out.
Yeah.
Is that a thing that was in the comics?
No, they were just like, what's the thing you could fight now? Someone was like, I don't know, bugs.
This was a point in time where people had such contempt for comic books on a studio level that if you bought the rights to a superhero, they'd be like, so which of the characters from this 60-year history should he fight? And be like, none of those. Those are for fucking losers. You should fight a bug guy.
What are the kids like?
Make
now?
up some bugs. But that plug is pulled.
Yeah, so Hensley finally drops out, basically saying, like, I wasted a year of my life on this fucking movie.
Right.
And it's never going to happen.
Right. And like $20 million had been spent in pre-production, developing the robot Hulk, like all these things. X-Men comes out, is big.
Yes.
Spider-Man is in production.
Yes.
Looks like a game changer, right?
Yes.
And then Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon comes out.
Just in between these things, Michael France writes one final script, Jesus Christ, that is lighter and more comical, with Bruce Banner as an amiable genius, with Jim Carrey in the mind as sort of like the person, like,
or
you know,
Sandler. I knew they threw out as well. They
Yeah.
thought about doing a comical, sort of almost self-parody kind of film.
Yeah, I mean, because you could obviously Sandler, anger management. I mean, there's a comic take, I suppose.
Angry guy.
But this script includes, weirdly, and God knows how it's funny, the element of his father being abusive, the element of the regenerative cells.
Right, which comes from the comics.
The Black Ops and all this, and the gamma sphere that is in this movie. So it's sort of like, weirdly, a lot of the DNA of that script that obviously they tossed is still there.
Was in there.
So I think that's why because he gets a credit too.
Yes.
Yeah, it's France and Turman who worked on these movies that never happened.
Right.
They get the credits along with James Schamus.
But the weird thing is, they all three get credits as writers.
Yes.
Schamus gets sole story by credit.
Right. So they're admitting that like the movie is Schamus's, but I guess they're just also saying like, but the script
overlaps with these other drafts. But that also feels backwards from how it should be, you know? It's like Schamus is the one who sat down by himself and sort of got to write it.
That is true.
Yeah.
Michael Tolkien and David Hayter
It's
rewrites.
insane list of people.
Hayter's draft had the leader, Zazax, and the Absorbing Man,
Yeah.
like just threw all the villains in there.
Too much for
And they were all like created in the same accident. So I guess the idea was like
4 guys all,
Ang Lee come involved, as you say, after Crouching Tiger.
Before we get on to Ang, our buddy Ang, just because we were on this tangent before someone walked in, I won't say who.
Okay, the guy who's been like 2 hours late.
Never!
To a record.
I did say you were pulling a
I can't keep them
grift.
apart. He lunged
We
across
looked
the
exactly
table.
the same. I do love that Marvel has done that bit of the hero jumping out of the aircraft carrier 4 times now.
Right. Yes. Because it happens
In Incredible Hulk.
It happens in Incredible Hulk. It happens in Age of Ultron when Black Widow kicks Banner.
Oh, maybe it happens 5 times then, because it certainly happens in Iron Man 2 where he kisses Pepper before he
Yes.
jumps out.
That's true.
Happens in Black Panther.
Yes.
Believe it happens in Winter Soldier as well. I know that Winter Soldier poster is him in the aircraft carrier with his back turned, looking
Can't
like he's
remember.
about to jump out.
Yeah, he might.
They
I can't
love
remember.
that fucking image of the guy jumping out from a high altitude.
I guess it's fun.
And landing on the ground safe.
Yeah.
Strong. Hulk strong.
Sure, he's strong.
So-
no, but they literally she kicks him out in
Yeah.
Ultron to make him into Hulk.
Right.
It's the line where she's like, "Sorry, but I need the other guy right now,"
Yeah.
or whatever. You know.
But what happens here is a phenomenon that I find really interesting, which is kind of akin to the Paul Feig Ghostbusters situation, where it's like they have this property they're trying so hard to reboot.
Right.
It's never working, that they take such a crazy swing. And it's like
Right.
Crouching Tiger comes out. It's an action movie, but it's also like very meditative and sad
Right.
and in Chinese.
Indeed.
Right. And then it starts doing really well. They offered it to him in January, so it hasn't even crossed 100 million at that point.
Okay.
They don't know exactly how big Crouching Tiger is, but it's like in line for Oscars, and they just offer it to him and go like, what would you want to do? You can start from square one, make it whatever you want.
They offered him in January 2001, so
Yeah.
I don't think even the Oscar nominations had come
No.
out, but like they're about to. You know, it's like right then. And Ang Lee comes in, and he doesn't like the script, obviously, because it's probably like this mutant script.
Right. And I've
Brings in his buddy Jimmy.
I have referenced things that his buddy Jim Seamus has said to me
Yes.
over the course of
Because
this
when you
miniseries.
talk to Jim Seamus, you basically like were like, I love the Hulk, like, right? Like,
I want to
yeah.
make this clear. I'm not friends with James Seamus. Right. He wouldn't recognize me on the street. I was at like a New York Film Festival party, and I just fucking zoned in on him and was like, I need to tell you I love the Hulk.
Right.
And then he proceeded to talk to me for like an hour and a half, because I think he likes being able to talk about the Hulk as a character, because I, of course, know that this movie is called Hulk with no definite articles. But he said that like when they got assigned to it, they went through and read like every draft.
Sure.
And we're going through every permutation of the thing. And the thing they latched on to was the father stuff, the Brian Banner stuff. It also went through, read the comics, and found that arc.
Yes, they went through the comics. That arc, I believe, is in the Peter David part. Of,
Right, it's later.
Which is like,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think the Peter David Hulk is sort of
The
in my
iconic.
opinion, the definitive.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's sort of the apex.
And that is right where I think Ang Lee sees like, oh, this is like a Greek tragedy with all these like psychological elements,
Which
and
is
it's
what
like
he
a monster movie.
Latches
you know.
onto. Those are the two things they go, we want to make a Greek tragedy.
Right.
We want to get real actors. Right. Real human drama, and have them play it straight, totally separate from this monster movie. And then the other half of the movie is, we want to make a Universal Studios monster movie.
Yes.
Like, we're not viewing this as a superhero film because there barely is a template for what a superhero film is.
Right.
We're viewing this as the Wolfman.
And you have to remember, like, X-Men, which is the sort of proto superhero film, is not like that. I don't know.
It's
like,
pretty
it's not
reserved.
copyable. It's exactly.
Yeah.
It's pretty reserved. Doesn't have like big, crazy, wild action stuff.
No.
It's a lot of, like human drama and like,
Right.
I don't know. Like the set pieces are usually very emotional. Like, does that make sense? I'm trying to.
Yeah.
It's been a little while since I've seen
There's not
it.
a template from that movie that's easy to follow.
Yeah.
And no one knew what Spider-Man was yet, as past guest Peter Labuz has said. They didn't know what was going on concurrent with their
Right.
sort of development.
Right, and then there's that Seamus sees Spider-Man and is like terrified.
He walks out of the theater opening day. The audience cheers seeing Spidey on the American flag, and he calls up Ang Lee, who's in the middle of filming, and goes, "We're fucked.
Right,
we are absolutely fucked."
Yeah,
which is incredible. But this movie is, the Universal monsters, which I'm a big fan of.
Sure, you mean your Wolfman and your Mummy and your Dracula.
The original cinematic universe.
Yes, indeed.
Those films were horror films in a very different sense than we consider horror films today, because they're not jump scare movies. They're movies that more scare people by the ideas within them.
Right.
There aren't scary moments in those movies. The characters look scary.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen most of those movies. They're not scary.
No.
That's the thing about the Hammer horror movies that are sort of like recycling them 20 years later. Those are scary.
Right.
Like, those are going for like gore and atmosphere. The Universal movies are more like mind-boggling and strange to consider.
But that's also the origins of like Marvel Comics. It was like tales to astonish.
You read Amazing Fantasy, which is where Spider-Man came out of.
Amazing Fantasy.
An Amazing Fantasy, which was called like Amazing Adult Fantasy, which literally sounds like a porn title until they like dropped it. Like, it's always just like, a moon man discovered an ancient key, but then at the end he's cursed to live in a box. Like, it's always got like some dumb weird Twilight Zone ending.
Right, and they always start with this like, this is Jim Johnson, a normal man by day, buying milk.
By night, a deep sea diver.
What people don't know is that when it's exactly 40 degrees, he turns into...
But it's never superhero shit. It's always just some weird Twilight Zone shit.
But that's the thing. They always felt Twilight Zone, and they always felt monster movie.
Yes, it's always like, he did curse the mummy's curse. Oh, yeah,
that was the thing, because those movies aren't scary on a scene-by-scene basis as much as they are just like, ooh, what a scary circumstance.
How chilling to ponder.
Right. But Hulk comes out of that.
Yes, as does Spider-Man.
Hulk, right. But certainly like Hulk the comic
and
comes out of that.
Yeah.
The early Hulk comes out of that sort of mold.
Yeah, it's a Jekyll Hyde thing, right? And that's was there ever a Universal Jekyll Hyde? Obviously, there's the old Jekyll Hyde movie. I just forget if it's Universal.
I think the best Universal... Weirdly, the most canonical Universal Jekyll and Hyde is from Abbott and Costello Meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is played by Boris Karloff, I believe.
I'm going to look that up because I know Lon Chaney played him one time. It's one of those roles that you are correct. Boris Karloff plays him.
But it's the Frederick March one is the most famous one.
Right. The Frederick March one. There's just so many though. Like if you look at I think it's also one of those things where the rights were just never owned, so people would just make them over and over again. But yes, the Frederick March one, that's the 1931, and I believe he won the Oscar, which is sort of nuts.
Rad.
But anyway, yes, Hulk, classic Jekyll Hyde, right? By day, mild-mannered scientist. By night, monster.
And the way those comics would be written is you have a title like Tales to Astonish. Your goal is every issue come up with a tale that will astonish.
Oh, I'm astonished right now.
If one character popped, then they'd spin them off.
Sure.
But they were always kind of self-contained stories in which it was like, here's an unassuming person, here's the tragic accident, here's the weird condition they have, and then it sort of resolves itself with the person wandering back in the woods, and it's like, what will become of them?
Also, I believe in the first 6 issues of the Hulk, it's a day-night thing. Like the rage, the anger thing comes later.
Yes.
The anger transforms
he's gray,
him.
Notably.
He's gray, and then he's sort of I don't know. He's not green for a while. The whole Hulk mythos comes later.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes he talks a lot.
Yeah.
He's like, "Fuck you." Are you aren't you a monster?
Also, isn't this for kids?
He's like, "Don't be rude.
Watch your mouth." But in that way, this feels like one of the weirdly most faithful comic book adaptations, because I feel like it so perfectly captures that sort of early Marvel comic.
Right.
But that's the weird sort of diametrically opposed thing this movie is doing, which is simultaneously he wants to make the most comic book movie ever.
Right.
And also make Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Right.
With dads.
Yeah, and he did. I guess they filmed it in Arizona and San Francisco.
The most expensive movie Universal had made up until that point in time.
That's nuts.
Which is nuts.
They also did some stuff in the Utah deserts. Obviously, you see them here.
They have most of the movie filmed I think, wrapped by 2001, and it was pretty much like 2 years of post-production
ILM work.
Which they only finished like a month before the movie came out.
Eric Bana said that the shoot was ridiculously serious, a silent, morbid set.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. And I remember at the time, because the first Super Bowl trailer had very little, it didn't really show you the Hulk. It just showed you like his eye. And people were like, they haven't figured out what he's going to look like. The wrap on the movie was like, they never figured it out.
That wasn't the Super Bowl trailer. That was the first teaser they had before Spider-Man.
Sure.
Which was him in the mirror.
Yeah, him in the mirror. And then you just like...
It ends on the eye.
No, I think it ended on like his house and you see like a smashing, but you don't see the Hulk.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's correct. The Super Bowl one was the first time they actually showed the Hulk.
Right.
That was that January. They spent like $2 million for a 30-second ad where they showed him for the first time.
Yes. And people were kind of like,
because even on the poster, it was like his hand is covering his face. It's him like reaching out.
Yes.
So his face is obscured. But they like, Ang Lee was very big on like, they've done CGI characters before. There's been some amount of mocap.
Right, because there's Gollum.
Right.
Apart from that, there's not a lot.
No.
I mean, there's Blarp, obviously. Blarp changed the game. We all remember Blarp.
Blarp was a game changer.
Of course I remember
Blarp. You know, Hulk is like Blarp 2, right? If you think about it. And I guess Gollum is Blarp 2, Hulk is Blarp 3.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. It's like...
the Blarp trilogy.
It's like Hulk is the same wireframe as Blarp, but they've just sort of, mangled it.
It's 3 colors Blarp. Blarp is yellow.
Yeah, right.
I am Blarp yellow. I am Blarp gray.
Yeah.
Sickly gray. I am Blarp green.
Unite the Blarps.
Unite the Blarps. You have to unite the Blarps. Hashtag unite the Blarps.
All the Blarps.
He was really big on trying to get, and I guess, Gollum's kind of concurrent with this.
Sure. Yeah, that's true.
Because Two Towers doesn't come out until 2002.
That's true.
So they were, I think, sharing a lot of technology, but he hadn't been able to see those results yet. His big thing was, I want a real kind of nuanced performance. So he worked a lot with them to try to get...
He did a lot of the motion capture himself.
He did almost all of it, which is like, at the time they downplayed that, and now everyone goes like, no, Ang Lee played the Hulk for the entire movie, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, he's good.
And there are some behind-the-scenes featurettes you can find now where you see Ang Lee in the bodysuit watching the monitor and going, okay, another take. And then he goes and just hulks out.
Right.
And he's really fucking good.
He's great.
Like, he's tiny and he looks really solemn, and then he's like, okay, new take. And then goes like, and then just starts like slamming walls. It looks furious. Like he's got like spittle flying out of his mouth.
I mean, good for him. Ang Lee, he made this movie. The other thing is, I remember at the time that the narrative was also like, ILM, they're like being left in the dust. Yeah. They're shitty because I think the Scorpion King thing had happened like a few years earlier.
And Weta had like emerged as being this
Weta,
new
that's it. Right. They've reinvented special effects.
They cracked the code.
And then I feel like that reverses again. Like, like it's like Weta kind of becomes a little cheesy. Like, but anyway, it doesn't matter. This is all very inside.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back and forth. But like, I mean, ILM had always been like the king of the industry,
Right.
In terms of digital stuff. And Weta was like, Peter Jackson's like using the people that he set up in like a cabin in New Zealand to make the Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Like it seemed really rinky-dink because it was like the best special effects artist in New Zealand. But everyone was like crazy about Gollum. So then when the Hulk thing comes out, I think people were like, oh man, imagine what the fucking Hulk's gonna look like. And the answer is the Hulk looks really cartoony.
Yeah, he looks like a big green person. I think he looks fine.
I think he looks good. I have always argued that it looks
way
good.
Better than... all right, here's how
the
I would
Edward
put
Norton
it.
Hulk is terrible.
He looks way better than the Edward Norton Hulk. I do think the Ruffalo Hulk is leaps and bounds better.
Perfect.
But that's, that's 10 years on, essentially.
But I also think...
The Ed Norton Hulk's terrible. He doesn't look big or scary.
No, it's really
weird.
Bad. It like isn't composited well. Yeah. He never looks...
His hair is off.
The mask is never really in place. I mean, that movie had a greatly diminished budget in relation to this. And... this movie is thought of as a flop, and those two movies made the exact same amount of money.
Yes, but this movie was pricier, right?
It was pricier.
Yes. Yeah.
But, I mean, I think they essentially, in terms of profit, ended up about the same.
Possibly true. Yeah. I mean, the Louis Leterrier movie made $263. This made $245 worldwide.
Yeah.
So, and, inflation.
And I also
It's 5
think
years difference.
home video, like the DVD market was a lot stronger in 2003 than it was in 2008. So they were able to make up some of that.
Right.
He makes a couple choices here that I think fucked him in terms of the perception of the general public, but I like. One is that the Hulk is really fucking green in this movie.
He's very green.
He's
pea green.
He's bright, like vivid, like Crayola green, which makes him look unreal.
He looks unreal. The other thing that makes him look unreal is that he's often covered in like oil or something. So he sort of looks like he's been in like MS Paint. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, this is a technical limitation thing. The thing they had not really conquered at this time was how to get flesh right.
Right.
In terms of the translucency of flesh.
Uh-huh.
So he just kind of looks like a big green sponge, if that makes sense.
Right. He's just one. His skin is the same everywhere. Like, right. He's just one thing.
Like you look at the Ruffalo Hulk, and it's
the Ruffalo Hulk's very has hairs and like.
But they also
goosebumps.
They now are able to build these things where they actually like build your vein system before they put the flesh on top of it,
right?
And they build the flesh with a certain translucency, so it reacts to the light in certain ways.
But the Ed Norton Hulk is like covered in veins, but it just looks goofy.
Yeah,
like look at that.
Yeah,
Ben.
it looks so nasty.
Like the Ed Norton Hulk looks like
a toxic Avenger.
Yeah, it does look like a toxic
It looks
Avenger.
to me like what would come up in like an augmented reality app.
Yeah, he looks sick.
Yeah, he looks really sick. It's dumb. That movie fucking sucks.
Sick Hulk.
It does. It really sucks. I knew it sucked, and then I rewatched it.
It's so banal. He makes him bright green. He makes him. He gives him the purple pants, which the other permutations stray away from. Age of Ultron gets it back a little bit.
But I will admit
they go brown,
the
they go
purple
blue.
pants look bad. They just don't look like pants.
No.
They look like they're CGI. Like they look worse than the Hulk. You'd think they'd be better at pants.
The pants look really bad.
Like, was the guy on the pants like the bad? Like, was he like this? Sort of like, oh, Jimbo.
Yeah.
Well, he was on pants.
Let's put him on pants, and he's like, hey guys, I made some pants. I'm like, God, his pants are so.
No, he phoned it in because he's like, oh great, I'm the pants guy.
Yeah, right. He's like,
we can't fire him. He's Jerry ILM, heir to the ILM fortune.
Meanwhile, like in the other studio, Ang Lee's like, rah! And everyone's like, this is so fun. And the guy's like, someone's just modeling pants for him.
Fucking pants bullshit.
Do you want another angle on the pants? No.
The other big stylistic choice he makes, which I think freaks people out, is they give Hulk a baby face.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you didn't say that, yes, that is the real thing.
He's got a sad baby face.
This is kind of hot Hulk, too.
He's a handsome
Are you
Hulk.
saying you like babies?
Well,
yeah, Ben, what, you want to fuck Hulk babies?
You said baby face.
No, you're right.
People can have baby faces.
He has this sort of squishy kind of like wounded look at all times. Like he rarely looks angry unless he's like really like
full rage.
And even when he's in full rage, he kind of looks like an angry baby. Like, you know what I mean?
But like when like a toddler gets angry and then he starts crying and getting upset about the fact that he's been angry,
his face up and
right.
Yeah.
They make it like a child.
Yes.
Okay, well now I feel weird.
They make it like an
He's not
infant
hot.
child.
Right, like
He's not hot.
They make
take
him
it all back.
exactly like the kind of character that Ben would want to
No,
fuck.
stop.
No, but you're right. He
Cut this
looks
all out.
He looks a little babyish, and I think that really turned people off. Like,
Really turned people
They thought of the Hulk as this because of the like Lou Ferrigno image of this like masculine brute.
Turned me off for sure.
You want to be clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Wait,
okay.
Ben,
Come
why,
on, Ben.
why is the table rising right now? Oh my God, it's the most powerful boner I've ever seen. Oh!
You guys are the worst.
The best thing is that I
David
can actually as a
lifted the
bit
table.
lift
Yeah.
the table. So, the Hulk, he casts Eric Bana.
Well, no, he casts
Go ahead.
Billy Crudup,
Yeah, what happened there?
who they model the Hulk after Billy Crudup.
Yeah, he looks like Billy Crudup.
They start designing it after Billy Crudup, and then Billy Crudup's like, actually, I don't think I can be in a superhero movie. I don't want to be part of a big blockbuster. He bows out pretty late.
And he was going up, like, isn't that when Billy Crudup does his weird thing where he like dumps Mary Louise Parker like right around then?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe he's going through some shit.
Yeah.
But
they cast Jennifer Connelly right off the Oscar.
Yeah, she has just won an Oscar for A Beautiful Mind.
Mm-hmm.
She plays Betty Ross.
Yes.
And Eric Bana, who he's in Black Hawk Down the year they're casting, and that was his sort of Chopper had been his like emerging role.
That was
and
his Who
Black
Is
Hawk
This
Down
Guy?
was like, wow, he's very handsome. He's very
He
magnetic.
comes to Hollywood. Everyone's trying him out. He almost did XXX. Do you know that?
I didn't know that.
Before Fast and Furious was so huge, and then Rob Cohn could go, hey, let's take our shirt off and make a Vin Diesel movie. They were thinking it was going to be Eric Bana. Like, every studio was like, Eric Bana, interesting. And he had been an Australian comedy star. He was a sketch comedy sitcom guy.
He had a sketch comedy show, the Eric Bana Show.
Right.
Yep.
But then he does Chopper, where he plays this like larger than life, very gregarious, sort of dangerous, a very Ben movie.
I fucking love that movie.
Yeah,
it's a good movie. He's good in it.
He shows his
great
dick
in
at
it.
bars.
Yeah.
He's like, past and future guest Sam Rogal's great joke is that like Chopper's about the most lethal serial killer in the history of Australia, and he killed like 3 people.
We've made that joke on the podcast. I can't remember when it is, but yes.
Probably the Munich episode.
Yeah, that was Mark Chopper Reed, who now like writes children's books. So, Australia is a weird place.
Weird place.
But this is his, and then, he's got Troy next year and then Munich the year after that. So this is his little run of like Eric Bana,
we're gonna make
A-list
it happen.
movie star.
Yeah.
And then after that, that's the end of that.
Then he becomes weird Eric Bana and Eric Bana. Like, he's the villain in Star Trek. He's the husband in Funny People.
Yep. Which he's great in both of those movies.
He is great in both of those movies.
He's really great in both of those movies. He's also like, he really got fucked over because like Lucky You was his follow up to Munich, and that got like pushed and pushed and pushed.
2 years, yeah.
And then like the other Berlin Girl, where he plays Henry VIII, which is like a straight up embarrassing performance, but like, could have been a good. I mean, in theory, that's a fine choice. Like costume drama, you play a king.
But it sort of just never totally worked. He's really good in Hannah as well.
Good in Hannah. I mean, I think he's pretty good in The Time Traveler's Wife, which made money.
Yeah.
But that one was famous for like they had to do reshoots, but he'd shaved his head for Star Trek, so like that took forever to get off the ground. And now it's like he's just like, I'll be in your TV show. You know what I mean? It's a little sad. I still think he's a good actor.
I do too.
He can be hammy.
Yeah.
Like in something like The Finest Hours, he sticks out a little bit. He's like hitting things a little too hard.
Yeah.
But like, I like Eric Bana. I've always liked Eric Bana.
But he's sort of become that now. Like, he's sort of become weirdly like the guy giving you the information across the desk.
You're right that he's Eric Bana. Because like in King Arthur, that's his role, where it's like, let's give him 10 minutes at the top and that's that. You know, like, he's still big enough that he can make a little bit of an impact. Like,
if you've been above the title in the way that he was, where they were really trying to push him as a leading man, you always have some value, but the value is pretty much now, if he's above the title proper, it's a very small movie, a foreign movie.
Right.
It's like him doing special correspondence with Gervais for Netflix.
Oh, well, that was just a mistake.
Or it's like Lone Survivor and Eric Bana, Finest Hours and Eric Bana.
Yes.
You know,
King
Hannah
Arthur,
and
King
Eric
Arthur.
Bana, King Arthur, Funny People, Star Trek.
He's in some TV show coming up. I
Roseanne, right?
Dirty John. That's it. Dirty John. He got cast as Dirty John.
I just listened to Dirty John.
Yeah, Ben was talking to me about
very good.
That could be cool, actually.
Sure. I mean, but it is sort of the sad fact of life now, where it's just like, I guess I'll do a TV show for like a streaming company, but whatever. Yeah. Eric Bana, he's in this.
No, I'd say maybe that's the best thing an actor could possibly achieve. Probably.
David, yeah.
For me, you know what though? No, I'll say this.
This is getting awkward.
I'll say this. If you're doing a TV show for a streaming company, that's a little low rent. If you're doing a TV show for a streaming company that also is an online store, that sounds like some
and has never
art.
done anything wrong.
Never done anything wrong.
It is true that I often buy batteries from the company that also pays you to play a moth. You ever think about that? You know, the first thing, you can go to Amazon and find the first thing you ever bought. Like, they have your whole history. And I went back and it was the special edition DVD of Memento in like 2001.
You can also go back and see all the credit cards you've run up.
Oh, totally. Yeah, where they're like, do you want us to use this one? And I'm like, I know who doesn't want me to use that one. It's the good folks at MasterCard.
A lot of people.
It's just, I remember that special edition of Memento where they're like, it's going to be such a great DVD where it's like a bunch of slides.
It looks like his case file.
Yeah,
right?
and then you put it in, you're like, I just want to watch the movie, and it's like, no, we've thought this through.
You have to decode, like, isn't the menu, like, obtuse?
Yes. Yeah. The menu's impossible to navigate. Yeah. You have to, like, Google, like, how do I watch the movie again? And they're like, up, left, right, you know?
That's great, though. That's what
it's
people
such
were
a weird
still
little
like.
Yeah, well, they're like, this could be a game.
Yeah. Well, I just remember when Christopher Nolan came up to me at the post-production house and said, I'm going to do a jazz DVD.
Oh, God. Whereas my Hulk Blu-ray, which I own.
Yeah, same here.
Is basically like, you want to watch the movie?
Yeah. Yeah.
They have like a commentary, like they have
throws
special
it
features,
over its shoulder.
but the menu is basically like, welcome to Hulk, play movie. I don't know.
And the weird thing is, it's you saying that.
Yeah, it's me.
It's David just looking
like,
tired.
Even I'm not into this.
Yeah.
And I like the movie. They're not paying me enough to be excited.
Have we talked about DVD menus? How falling asleep?
Oh yeah.
To them,
so then
and it just plays on loop.
Right.
That must like just drive you crazy. I feel
like
like
there's some weird osmosis in the brain.
Happening.
Yeah.
My friend Jesseline, great comedian. Her Twitter bio, I believe, used to be sex stuff during DVD menus, which I think is just such a good evocation
it's still her Twitter bio.
Of. It's so good.
Yeah, it's funny
because it is that thing of like pre-Netflix and chill. Like
let's
you want to come over and watch a movie.
Laptop over.
Exactly.
Right.
It's pre-Netflix,
and then there's still like a loop of someone going like, "Wow!" Like every 2 seconds.
Yeah. Like you're watching The Spy Who Shagged Me, and it's still like
do 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 do.
Right. And like choose an option, baby.
Yeah, they have clips of the movie sometimes.
1 million special features. Like they have those little like sound bites. I remember the Spy Who Shagged Me one specifically is like Austin dancing and he's like pointing to the different menu options and just Soul Bossa Nova over and over again.
I had the weirdest dreams.
Yeah.
God.
I will say this though, the Ride with the Devil Blu-ray, I think that score is so good that I kept it on because I liked the ambient looping.
I think Criterion does a good job of like, let's make sure even the looping menu is sort of serene and atmospheric, like not like I mean, it'd be weird if that was Ride with the Devil, where it's like Skeet Ulrich pointing a gun at the various options.
Choose an option, baby. No, but they sort of have like very meditative visuals that are on a loop, and then they pick long soundtracks. But hey, it's been an hour. Let's talk about my favorite Ang Lee movie. Now we can get into the meat of the film.
Yeah.
The opening I love because he sets right off the bat the sort of visual, sort of how visually indebted this movie is to classic Marvel comics.
Absolutely.
This opening credit sequence is applying the sort of philosophy of like make every panel as dynamic as possible.
Yes.
You know? Especially in those early like Tales to Astonish type things, Strange Tales, what have you, where a lot of those stories were set up as one-shots.
Right.
And even when you move on to ongoing titles, they didn't very often do multi-issue arcs.
They never basically did. And sometimes they would do 2 stories per issue, like 11-page stories. And like, I mean, that's why I love, like, I've been reading old Spider-Mans where it's just like there's one really early one where Dr. Octopus, who like 3 issues ago, like hijacked a nuclear sub or something. And they're like, he's being let out of prison for good behavior. And you're like, I guess they just had to move this along.
Those things just truck. Like they move so fucking fast.
I love it.
This whole opening credit sequence of like David Banner with all his experiments, where it's they're using these great angles, these extreme close-ups, a lot
Paul
of
Kersey.
Yeah, like he's not doing like fucking Joel Schumacher, but he's very subtly like getting the colors and the sort of angles, making them look real world, but that sort of like dynamic sort of visual
I agree.
style.
I mean, I think it's never been done before since practically. I mean, like you mentioned Schumacher, but Schumacher was like, by comic booky, do we mean just sort of over the top? Because they'll shoot it like an 80s music video, like a lot of dry ice, a lot of like neon. Like,
whereas like he's approaching this like Roy Lichtenstein, where he's like, what makes a good comic book panel?
Exactly.
You know, like what's the composition?
Everything is composition. It's like, should his face be like, you know, can we do these weird deep focus shots?
Right.
Like
all these
one
split
face is sort of
things.
like right in the foreground and furrowed brow.
And I forgot, like, because I obviously remember the panels, which they don't do that much. They do it more towards the end.
They do it a lot at the beginning and a lot at the end. They do it a lot at the beginning.
It feels like he really wants to do it during the action sequences at the end, and he does it a bunch at the beginning just to acclimate people.
Exactly. And then he sort of throttles down.
Yeah. But this movie also does all the like overlapping sort of image stuff that then like Speed Racer really takes to the next level, where it's like,
yes, so you're right. Speed Racer.
Someone walks into someone else's frame, you know, and
all
it feels like
shit.
I love that.
You know what else does it?
What?
A movie called Draft Day.
Yep.
A movie called Draft Day.
Yep.
What's that about?
Yep. It's about a very ambitious intern who, on his first day of work, is saddled.
He's saddled with 4 cups of coffee.
Yeah, and a broken laptop.
No, so he's saddled with an unsightly tan. In fact, let's talk about it.
Well, let's not talk about it.
Griffin Dolezal.
Griffin Dolezal. The thing I love about this opening credit sequence is that it feels like this is the opening of an issue that would have a bunch of Stan Lee narrative blocks above it, where it's like, by night, scientist David Banner works on experiments that would shock you to your core. And it's like the shot of him like cutting open the starfish, you know?
Yes. That starfish thing like is funny because he really leans on it and then it doesn't come back for 2 hours and then it finally does. Yeah.
But you see all this experimentation, this Danny Elfman score I love. They Heichel, Jesus Christ.
They Katherine Heigled it. You're right.
Katherine Heigled it.
They did. She edited this movie.
They hired Michael Dania, who had worked on Ang Lee's past couple of movies.
He scores The Ice Storm. He scores Ride with the Devil. I can't remember if he did any before. I think that's it, because Patrick Doyle did since then.
Right, and he was like...
but he'll work with Ang Lee again.
Life
of Pi.
He does the score, and Universal's like, this is too sad. This is too weird. Let's hire a normal superhero guy, Danny Elfman.
Right, and it is at the time where it's like, oh, well, Danny Elfman did the Batman theme.
He did Spider-Man.
He did the Spider-Man theme. He is, the premier superhero score writer.
Right. So they hire him, and at that point they're like, "We hired the guy. That's fine. We won't look at."
Yeah, sure. Right. We're gonna go get coffee.
Right.
I'm sure it's all gonna be great.
And he listens. He's like, "So what was the problem with the old score?" And they play on the Michael Dania score, and he's like, "It was pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do something like this.
Yeah, maybe I'll just sort of like spruce this up like 10%, just light, a little lighter, but like, yeah.
But it's like one of the least triumphant superhero scores. It's so good, but it's very like eerie. It's sad,
Elfman's fascinating because what happened to him?
He now is
he's
just
a bit
in
of a
sort of
now.
fucking work for hire mode. Yeah,
boingo.
Like, what's the last interesting score he did?
Let's look at the discography.
Right?
I'm gonna guess it's like a Burton movie, but I don't even know.
But I can't tell you what the last
he
good
did the
Burton
Justice
score
League score, and
right.
I don't remember anything except when he reused the
Quotes
Batman
his own
theme.
stuff, right?
Boy, oh boy. I mean, I remember that he worked on the Avengers: Age of Ultron score,
which is
fine,
less good than the Silvestri score from the first movie.
That is true.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm kind of going back and I'm not seeing anything.
Because even his last good Burton is probably Big Fish.
You know what his last great score is Milk. That's a phenomenal score. But that's like 10 years ago. So
yeah, 10 years ago. That's a phenomenal score.
A phenomenal score.
Since then, he's kind of sucked. This is one of my favorite scores of his. And then the movie goes from that opening credit sequence to starts jumping around in time so aggressively.
Yeah, my favorite thing is that 5 different children play young Bruce Banner because it's like 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 8-year-old. It's so weird.
But that's like the old Marvel thing of you got 30 pages, you got to set this up. You can't spend more than 2 panels on any given plot point.
But the plot that they're setting up is that David Banner was going to make super soldiers using modified DNA to strengthen,
jellyfish
to make us rebuild our wounds
stronger
and all that.
Skin,
Thaddeus Ross, who comes off in this movie as a pretty reasonable dude, Thunderbolt Ross, denies him the permission to use human subjects, so he just does it on himself, and then has a child who he has cursed with this genetic abnormality.
Right, is a Sins of the Father movie.
It is, and
it is a trauma movie. It's a repressed trauma.
It's a movie about repressed trauma and Freudian hatred and spousal abuse, and.
But that's in this opening
mental
sequence.
Illness.
We have this thing.
The genius who puts his work before his family.
Yes,
sure, for sure.
But I like that the movie just
also he's like crazy starfish man,
right. It'd be very easy to make him just the bad
Ben
dad.
Ben is swishing himself right now.
He just hit a shot from mid-court. Come on!
Go on, Griffin.
Come on!
Oh my God, Griffin's me.
Everything, yeah.
This
I'm
is
the
his
goof.
like favorite.
I'm the
movie.
goof. I'm
Right.
late. I'm like, everything's...
You're griffing it pretty hard this episode.
I am. All right, sorry.
A shittier version of this movie.
Go throw up.
Yeah. Don't even joke about that. Don't even joke. Oh my God. Thank you. Giving him a high five. Mm-hmm. The shitty version of this movie would just be like, the dad cares too much about his job, which is essentially what Ross is. That's his relationship with Betty, is that he's kind of emotionally distant.
In this movie and in general.
Doesn't know how to reach out to her.
Right. Yeah. And instead it's like the trauma of Bruce's very, very young childhood
is like real fucking trauma.
Is buried.
And they dance around it for a while, but we for so long have this lingering shot they keep on coming back to of him standing outside the door where he hears his parents screaming from the other side.
Right.
And it's like...
Spoiler alert, David stabbed the mommy.
Yeah, he was trying to kill baby Bruce.
Right.
Who and in like the process...
monster.
Right, killed his mother in front of Bruce's eyes.
Yes. Now...
But also was a drunk, was irascible, was violent.
Yes, but I think there's some implication that like experimenting on himself sort of drove him mad, right? You know, right? Like there's it's all so like unspoken and there's no narration, which is funny to think about because you're talking about these old comics and you're right. They did pack, but you know, the Marvel method was like Stan Lee would sit Jack Kirby down or whatever and be like, it's this he's like a scientist, he turns into the Hulk, go draw it. And the guy would draw it and then Lee would write everything around the art and he would just fucking go on crazy tangents. Like, you know.
Which if you read early Marvel, they don't have a lot of dialogue.
No, it's just Lee boxes.
It's Lee
narration,
boxes, right. Very verbose sort of
incredibly
like
verbose, like over explaining things that maybe like Ditko had drawn some panel and Lee's like, why is Spider-Man doing this? I'll think of some weird thing, you know, like, and it's I love it.
And we got these little vignette scenes that feel like that, except with dialogue. The casting on both young Sam Elliott and young Nick Nolte is really good in this movie. They get their energies down so right. And especially with Sam Elliott, you look at the actor playing young Thunderbolt Ross and you're just like, God, that upper lip is jonesing for a mustache.
Get a push broom on that fucker.
You gotta get a push broom on that fucker.
But so we cut ahead to Bruce Krenzler.
Right.
Who's a scientist, knows nothing of his past.
Right.
You know?
And the one thing you get in between to sort of bridge it, your first like sort of longer dialogue scene is Celia Weston with
It's not even that long.
No, but it's
like a minute.
At this point, we're like 6 minutes into the movie and we've seen like 18 scenes.
It's true.
You know, because it's a bunch of like one panel.
And there was, you know, like the credits were over it, like in dramatic fashion. Yeah.
Right. And they use like the Marvel font, the classic Marvel font.
They do, which I love. Bring that back, baby.
Bring it back.
So... Yeah, Bruce is a scientist. He's dating Betty Ross.
Well, they just broke up. At the beginning of the film, they just broke up.
I guess so.
Because, what's his name, who now only plays creeps? Kevin Rankin?
Kevin Rankin, yes.
Yeah, who now plays like methy, neo-Nazi creeps on like Breaking Bad and stuff.
He does. I mean, he was in like Justified and he was in Breaking Bad and he was in, but he was in like Friday Night Lights around now.
He's a great actor.
Very good actor.
I just love that in this he plays like a Griffin Newman
just the
type.
Friend, right? Yeah, who's like, hey, how you doing, bud?
Right. You go, were you wearing that helmet when she broke up with you?
This thing where he's wearing the fucking helmet.
Love it. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Don't worry, I'll get it, Ben.
Okay. Nemo! I'm looking for Nemo. Nemo, have you seen Nemo?
No.
It's me, Albert Brooks. Actor, filmmaker, comedian, writer.
Sure, I'm a huge fan of you, Albert.
Thank you, I'm looking for Nemo. Have you seen Nemo?
No, I have not seen a fish.
It's not a fish, it's... Oh boy, this is kind of embarrassing. So, you know, I've been involved in some very famous film projects.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I'm very proud of my work, not boastful, but proud. And so I like to name my personal belongings after my greatest film works.
Oh, I see. Okay, so what are you looking for in particular?
My microwave, I call it Lost in America. Okay. You know, my dresser, I call it Broadcast News.
Sure.
And my linens, I call Nemo. They're my Brooks linens.
Oh, okay.
Albert Brooks's linens are called Nemo, and I can't find them anywhere.
That's terrible. Because
Nemo, you think you can do these things, but you can't.
Okay, Brooklinen.
Brooks linens?
No, Brooklinen.
Oh, singular.
Yes. Okay.
Non-possessive. They're not my linens.
But they are going to be a great replacement for your missing linens because here's the deal. All right. Brook Linen Sheets were named the winner of the best online bedding category by Good Housekeeping. Okay. They get rave reviews from Business Insider. Everybody's talking about
the way
them.
I got rave reviews for my supporting performance and drive.
You're good in that.
Thank you. Very proud. It's just nice to be part of a good project.
So let me just tell you some stuff about it. Try to
Please.
get you excited. All right. So this is the deal.
Doesn't take much to get Albert Brooks excited.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just make a quick
I'm blowing up
adjustment.
the levels there.
That's fine. So here's the deal with Brook Linen. All
Okay.
right. It was founded in 2014 by a husband and wife team named Vicky and Rich Fulop. And their mission was to
modern
make
romance.
5-star hotel quality sheets for everyday life, but without the luxury markup.
I mean, I'm on board so far. It sounds great.
And these sheets don't just feel great, but they look great too. And there's different colors and materials to choose from.
Like Meryl Streep in Defending Her Life. Not just a great performance, but she looks great. Not to be, not to objectify her, but
Well, yeah.
we all kind of wore linens in that movie. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a heaven set picture.
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Are you? I don't take it personal.
No, it's a good film. I mean, not to pat myself on the back. Go on.
You are patting yourself on the back. Well, okay. So Albert, I think that you and our listeners will benefit from this deal today that we're offering. Okay. So the Brook Linen sheets that David, myself, and Griffin all use.
Hey, I'm Griffin, by the way. I was right here.
Oh, hi.
yeah. I'm
Nice to
sorry.
meet you.
This is Albert Brooks. This is Griffin Newman.
Big fan.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Their sheets are the best, most comfortable sheets that I've ever slept on.
Wow.
And I think we all agree in the room, do we not? Yeah. Brooklinen.com is giving an exclusive offer just
What?
for our listeners. Okay. So if you want to get $20 off and free shipping, just use promo code check at brooklinen.com when you check out. All
Okay,
right.
so what you're saying is I have to go to the website and check out. Those are the only two instructions, right?
you use the code check at checkout and you'll get $20 off and free shipping. All right. And now, not only that, Brooklinen is so sure that you'll love their new sheets that they will offer a risk-free 60-night satisfaction guarantee and a lifetime warranty on all of their sheets and comforters.
Wow. No, Ben, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
What if needy was sexy?
Needy?
I was quoting Broadcast News. You know what? You're right. I am maybe a little too boastful of my own work. Just proud of my career.
You should be proud of your career.
Dory!
What is that?
I'm testing out. I think I would name these new sheets Dory. So I'm seeing how that sounds. Dory! Where'd you go, Dory? Yeah, no, it's a good fit. Well, it sounds like I'm going to make Brook Linen my new Brooks linens.
Once again, the only way to get $20 off and free shipping is to use promo code check at brooklinen.com. That's BROOKLINEN.com. Promo code check. Brooklinen. These really are the best sheets ever.
I'll do anything for these sheets.
I see what you did there.
That's a film I'll do. It's a rare failure for me.
Can I pitch you an idea?
No, absolutely not.
So, the idea is, and Betty pretty much calls this out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like she falls for men like her father. She falls for men who she
and
can't
Bruce
really
is very
know.
distant. Yes,
Right.
yes.
Right. So he's not exactly the same in terms of temperament as her father, but he's just sort of inaccessible.
Agreed.
And she has this longing to reach for these men who you need to sort of dig out.
Now, how do you feel about the character of Bruce Banner in this movie? Just Bruce.
So I love that he is so thoroughly boring.
He's very boring.
Very boring.
Because I do feel like, and I don't like the Louis Leterrier movie,
I don't either.
the Edward Norton movie,
Yeah.
but I do feel like that movie clearly saw this movie and was like, we need Bruce to be like a character.
You need to
who
make him
we
a
spend
leading
lot of
man.
time
You want to
with.
make him
Yeah.
a protagonist who you care about.
Right, because that movie is about Bruce trying to control his rage, and Bruce
Right.
like doesn't turn into the Hulk for a long time and all that. You know what I mean? Whereas this movie is like, meet Bruce Banner. He's totally boring. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the key to this movie in terms of what Ang Lee wants to say is that Bruce has to be completely vacant as a human being.
Right.
Because it's like,
He's buried it all.
it's
down.
all bottled trauma.
But he is kind of hot, so I guess that's a great.
Yeah, and
help
I
for him.
think Banna's good in it. Like he's very. I think
good.
he's got
He's
a good
fine.
intensity. I think he's
Yeah.
really good at the hulking out moments.
Yeah.
Because especially like with the technology where it was at this point in time where a full transformation is hard to show, the moments where he's like building the rage
and sort of like banging the floor maybe or something like that.
that shit's really good. But it's like,
it's good.
By design, it's sort of the workhorse character that is the least glamorous and the least sort of rewarding to play.
Right.
So they very quickly get into they're doing these tests
very quickly. They're doing gamma radiation tests to rebuild cells, just like his dad was.
But they keep on exploding frogs.
Yeah, they do. They blow up a frog, which is gross.
Now, he was adopted by Celia Western, foster parents. He doesn't know his real parents.
Yes.
She keeps on asking him, don't you want to know? And he goes like, don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Don't care. Don't want to look into it.
And meanwhile, Betty's leaving the office one night, and a lovely janitor is cleaning the floor.
And they shoot him from behind, so you'll have no idea who the janitor is.
Exactly.
Who are you?
Phantom.
I'm no worry.
Don't worry about it.
I'm not an actor. You should recognize
I'm gonna matter later.
I'm your father, Brendan.
Yeah, it's a total chameleon performance.
My favorite genre of film is Bad Dad Nick Nolte.
Yes, please. Now, Nick...
I'll do anything, Warrior, Hulk. That's my triple feature.
Nick Nolte, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What's his middle name?
Lawrence?
King!
What?
Nicholas King Nolte!
The king of acting!
Exactly. So, King Nolte here.
My friend Doug Rosenberg made a joke that I think about every time I watch a Nick Nolte performance. And it's funnier to me than most things I've ever heard in my life. We were watching The Thin Red Line together.
Great movie.
And
he's good in it.
He's amazing. He should have been nominated for that.
Yeah, arguably.
100%.
The only problem is there's like 400 men in that movie that are like, a lot of them are really good.
The best performance in that movie, I would argue. And he's got the most showcasey
He's
kind
right
of
up
scenes.
there. I mean, I think Caviezel's very good in that movie. Anyway, go
I
on.
do too. But he's got one of the scenes where he's like screaming like, I said launch the missiles now!
Yeah.
Doug turns to me and he goes, more like Neck Nolte. And I said, what? Why Neck Nolte? And he said, because his veins are popping out of his neck.
Yeah, I got it. I do think it's interesting. Like, you go from I'll do anything Nick Nolte. He's always had the voice.
Which is 1994. Right.
So 9 years previous.
The idea that there are 9 years between these two films, that in one film, Nick Nolte is like the well-meaning, sort of hunky
he's
father
hunky, he's
of a
big.
4-year-old. And in this, it's like Hulk's degenerate hobo, like...
Yeah, he is literally like...
I've been living under another man's testicles for 25 years.
Oh my God. Like, his poodles are like his spirit animal, where he's like, you ever seen a poodle that looks like it wants to eat you?
Nick Nolte was voted People's Sexiest Man Alive in 94, I believe.
No. It was in 91, I think. It was for The Prince of Tides.
Okay. Even
but
still.
Yes. Well, I was about to say, even in like, so you've got like Mulholland Falls, Afterglow, U-Turn, Affliction. These are like, he's still a leading man.
Like Mulholland Falls, he like has a love scene with Jennifer Connelly.
Who's in this movie?
I know, but I'm saying like in that time.
I know.
It's like, and then in this, it's like, he's like a ghoul who's haunting Jennifer Connelly.
Well, this is what I'm trying to get to. It's like Thin Red Line 98. Even then, like you say, maybe he's Nick Nolte.
Yeah, he's
still
Nick
like
Nolte.
a person.
Yeah.
The Golden Bowl. Yeah, that's right. He was like a lead in a fucking Merchant Ivory.
Yeah.
And then in 2002, he's in The Good Thief, which people barely remember. A Neil Jordan movie.
Remake,
Bob
right?
LaFleur remake. And he's playing like a man who is made of vodka, right? And you're like, it's not like you saw the movie and you were like, wow, what a transformation by Nick Nolte, but you are kind of like, wow, he's a real wreck in this movie.
Yeah.
And he just is a wreck from then on.
And the other thing is, when this movie is being shot, he has his DUI.
He does. He's
Which
got
is
the
arrested.
famous image of him in like the Hawaiian shirt. Yeah.
Where he is shooting this and he looks like this.
Right.
And everyone's like, oh, Nick Nolte has fucking fallen on hard times.
Right.
Which, like, on one hand, I think Nick Nolte was starting to crumble. On the other hand, he had grown his hair out for a role to play a guy who was starting to crumble.
That's not to, defend drunk driving or whatever, and also apparently had like a lot of GHB in his system.
And
so
hey,
like, all right, Nick.
He wasn't doing great.
Sometimes Daddy likes to have a little bit too much sauce.
Sure.
He's got to get home somehow.
Yeah.
You know what I
Like,
mean?
Tropic Thunder is 5 years after this.
Yeah.
And that's like, at that point, it's just sort of like a stereotype that's what Nick Nolte is.
He's like a comedic reference point. What did you just do on the computer, Ben?
No, his phone made
I'm
a noise.
griffing out.
He's just
really
griffing
so
the
hard.
fuck out, and we were just laughing about it. Anyway, Nolte,
so
phenomenal in this
I
movie.
am new.
What happened to Gary?
He died.
I just love that he's the worst janitor where he's like, being a janitor is just, you mop one circle in the floor, right? Like in a corner.
We've been talking about how bad 2003 was for supporting actor. I would have slid him in so fucking hard for
I'd
this
slide
movie.
him in.
Yeah. Especially at the end. But so that's the basic dynamic you have going on. Bruce is doing his testing. He and Betty are broken up, but still on personable terms. I like that it's just sort of like, look, Bruce, I can't date you anymore. And they're like still working together with no animosity. And he's kind of trying to get her back, but he isn't really.
He's a bit of a cipher. And then there's an accident.
Right.
Now,
Does Ross call Betty before or after that? There's the scene where they get lunch that I love.
I can't remember exactly. Ross might be on the scene.
Because the two things that happen are Talbot has been sniffing around them.
Talbot-
Josh Lucas playing a real heel.
Yes, Josh Lucas coming right off of like Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah.
But yeah, Talbot, who's like a classic villain of the early Hulk comics, like, you know, sort of a Ross stooge.
Yeah, right.
Well, he's like in the military. He's like a
Yeah.
major, but yes.
But he wants to sort of buy out their
He wants in.
technology. And then Ross is kind of sniffing around, which Betty thinks is her father trying to connect with her. But then she realizes. And you look at that scene where they get lunch together, and it's like, this will never exist in a superhero movie ever.
Shoot.
Again.
Tell me why.
Because it's a scene that is about who is the character who is ostensibly the romantic interest of the film,
Right.
and her fractured relationship with her father, who is the villain, but
Right.
played with zero histrionics.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I remember when Elliott was cast,
Yeah.
and I was a big comic book fan. I was like, oh my God, of course. Like, he's
Nailed
like
it.
basically looks like the drawn
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
like, which is this sort of like stone-faced guy with a big mustache.
Yeah.
And remember, We Were Soldiers had just come out.
Yes.
And in the trailer, there's that line at the end where Mel Gibson's like, what about Custer? Like Custer's Last Stand or something. And he's like, Custer was a pussy. And
Yeah.
you're like, right, okay, he's going to do that. Doesn't really do that.
It's one of his sadder
It
performances.
is. It's a very quiet performance that he never, like, you know, freaks out, really. I guess he, like, yells a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. I think he plays this with
Very controlled.
with a knowledge of how shitty he is as a dad.
Yes.
Like
he
when
knows
she calls
he's
him
not a
out,
great dad.
it's like his frustration at the fact that he can't just figure out how to relate to her.
But there's that early thing, and I can't remember if it's right. I think it is right before, because she's like, what is it that we're sniffing around
This
here?
is
And
the
he's
scene-
like,
right.
classified. And she's like, of course, classified.
Right. Like that's
you
what I
know.
love about the scene is it's like an incredible show don't tell scene.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, the movie just slows down. The love interest goes to meet up with the villain, and immediately he starts talking about other stuff, and it tells you everything you need to know about their relationship. And Jennifer Connelly plays this. Everyone in this movie plays it like Ingley said. I mean, going to like the solemn tone on set, he was like, I constantly want to tell them, don't play it like you're in a Hulk movie.
Right.
Like Greek tragedy, this is an adult drama. I'll take care of the Hulk movie in post.
I know. And again, we're only a few years removed from like the Schumacher type Batman and Robin movie where Schumacher was like, more, like, this is silly, this is fun. Like,
But these are like real scenes of adults talking.
Yes.
And even when you get to like the Nolan Batman movies that have that sort of like maturity to them, the scenes of adult talking are still like pretty much plot scenes.
They're all plot scenes.
They're all plot scenes. They're
agree,
all
Ben?
shoe leather.
Yes.
They're shoe leather with good dialogue and fun performances. But this movie has just like emotional relationship scenes. And those emotions are always bottled. Like Jennifer Connelly is one of the best actors at starting to cry or holding in tears.
She's a good actress.
I love her.
Can we talk about her for a second?
I fucking love her.
So she just won the Oscar, and like she'd been around. She's a kid star. She's in Labyrinth, right? You know, and then in the '90s, she's sort of like a like sex pot. Like it's like, oh, Jennifer Connelly, she's
Inventing
so
the Abbotts,
hot.
Mulholland
Inventing
Falls,
the Abbotts, the Hot Spot, all these like kind of like
Temptress.
right, exactly, slightly sort of like trashy movies, and then.
Beautiful Mind was like a kind of out of nowhere game changer all of a sudden.
Well, no, because there's
Requiem for a
Waking the
Dream.
Dead and Requiem
Yes,
for a
those
Dream
are the
and
two.
Pollock, all
Right.
in 2000, which
Right.
are all these like good, serious performances. Waking the Dead's an underrated movie.
I agree with
Speaking of
that.
Billy
Yeah.
Crudup. And then, Requiem for a Dream, she goes through a lot of shit in that movie, but
Yeah.
she's good.
Right.
This year, she also has House of Sand and Fog, which she gets an Oscar nomination. Doesn't get an Oscar.
She doesn't get it.
For,
she
but
should've.
she's like sort of in that movie's rough.
I don't love that movie. She's great in it, I think.
Yeah, but that movie's rough.
Yeah.
I think she's the third best, though. I think like because they nominate Kingsley and Agadashlu, who are both.
I think all three of them should have been nominated.
Anyway, and so she's still like at this point like a prestige actress.
And she's kind of like now the queen of cinematic suffering. Like
Yeah,
she's
she
the
does.
long-suffering.
Yeah.
She can be the long-suffering wife emotionally, or she can be like Requiem for a Dream, where it's
Suffering
literally
mother,
like
suffering-
throw everything at her.
Because in 2005 you got Dark Water, which is a decent little horror movie, I think. In 2006 you have Little Children.
Where she like has such an uninteresting
nothing
character.
to do. Yeah, that's
is
like
so
Winslet's movie is that's Winslet's movie.
And it's so weird. You go like, okay, so now it's 2006. Jennifer Connelly's 5 years on from winning an Oscar, and we don't know what to do with her. Like she's already in a rut. I also think she's one of the most beautiful actresses of all time.
She's very pretty. I don't know what it is. Like I don't know why it is that maybe it's just because she plays a lot of like dark characters. Like she rarely got it. Like she. By the time she's in He's Just Not That Into You, which is 2009.
Which she's also really fucking good in.
I don't remember, honestly.
That
but
movie
like,
is bad, and it's
a
another
terrible
one of those
movie.
things where every time they cut to the Jennifer Connelly plotline, you're like, Jennifer, you don't have to work this hard.
I know,
but
but
she
it felt
treats
like
it
one
like
of those-
she's in House of Sand and Fog.
Right, but it felt like one of those things where she's like, finally, I get to play like a not suicidal character.
And she plays it really sad.
Yeah, and then it's just over for her. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously she's in like The Dilemma. She's in
Right,
Noah,
which is like
she's in
thankless
Noah
Dilemma.
with her former Requiem director.
Which, like, she's solid in all these things, but you feel like she doesn't really get, God, I forgot the fucking Dilemma.
Weird, man.
Yeah.
But anyway, she's good in this.
This is her big post-Oscar lap.
Yeah, she's good.
And she kind
It's a rough role. Betty Ross is a rough role because it's basically like at a certain point you just want to be to Betty Ross like, why the fuck are you doing this? Like, get out of here.
But I think what helps this movie is making it so much about her relationship with her father and sort of giving her the reins of the story. Because, yeah, very shortly after this, Bruce gets into the accident. Gamma accident. In the lab, he pushes Rankin out of the way and stands in front of the
Stands in front of a big metal ball.
and everything turns green.
Yeah, because like, you know, the classic Hulk accident's like a nuclear test accident. And I guess they just...
Which we keep on seeing the flashbacks of the mushroom
this is what
clouds.
I'm saying. Like, they decide to link it through that like dual thing of like, yes, in the past there was a nuclear test.
Yeah.
And then this is what unlocks it. I guess just deciding like no one tests nuclear bombs in 2003, so let's not do that. I guess that's the idea.
Which, like, here's a thing I love in this movie. Like, Amazing Spider-Man 2, a garbage film made by garbage people, it tries to do the thing where it's like, oh, but he was destined to be Spider-Man all along.
Right.
Because his father experimented on him.
I hate
So the
that.
spider bite
I forgot about
unlocked
that.
it.
Yeah.
Like, he was always going to be Spider-Man.
Like, why? Who cares?
Exactly. Who cares?
What the fuck?
This movie's actually saying something, which is...
The whole heroism of Spider-Man is that he gets the powers and realizes they're for good.
Right.
Like, and it takes him
anyone.
learning a very tragic lesson. But like, you know what I mean? Like,
The
it's
key to
not as much
Spider-Man-
fun if
No.
he's been groomed for the role.
The key to Spider-Man is that he was not a likely superhero and
Exactly.
he chooses to do the right thing.
Then you want to weigh
Thank
in.
God it was a spider and not like another kind of bug.
Gnat.
Gnat.
Gnat
The amazing
man.
gnat. man.
But it's just like they make it this whole fucking thing. In this movie, it's like, I think, a pretty good sort of analog for like, he's got this repressed trauma and the gamma radiation is like the triggering incident. You know?
Exactly. Right.
It's like, it's not the thing that turns him into the Hulk. That's been inside of him
Exactly. That's
the whole
always
time.
right. The
That's
Hulk's
the damage
no fun
of his
if it's
father.
just a monster.
Right.
It's not. It's him. It's his worst or whatever. Most angry.
But that's also what happens to people who experience great trauma is it's like they usually don't break down immediately afterward, especially if it's childhood trauma, you know?
That's fair.
Like very often you have people like Bruce Banner who seem really boring and really together and then just have a complete psychotic break at some point, you know? I just think he, you know, I think there's some Ang Lee visuals. We go into his bloodstream.
Love
you
it.
see some of the shit. And then it pretty quickly goes to him in the hospital, and he's like, I feel better than I've ever
Yeah,
felt.
he wakes up and they're like, you should be dead.
Right.
You should be
And
melted
Jennifer
like
Connelly's
that frog.
like crying at his deathbed, and he's like, no, I'm good. My bad knee's my good knee now. I'm killing it.
Right. I don't need a bike helmet anymore.
Yeah. I'm not a loser.
And then, which is what I kind of forget, is like then Nick Nolte's like, oh, great, my chance to shine. Like, I thought he lurked for longer. He kind of just sort of butts in
really
almost
lurks
immediately.
once and then shows up at the hospital. The only other scene I feel like we skipped over, we should mention, and I just love the visual, because this is like the most Speed Racery moment, is when we're already trucking through that opening, and Bruce like goes back home and takes the Kodak photo envelope out of his desk, which is such a great like, oh right, you used to have like a wallet of photos from like the photo developer,
right?
And he takes out the Betty photo, and then it goes into the Betty photo.
I love that. I love any of those transitions. They're so great.
They're so comic booky.
Yeah.
And she talks about her nightmare she keeps on having,
right?
Which is, it starts with her earliest memory, which is like presumably one of the few times that her and her father seemed to have an emotional moment when he took her out for ice cream.
Right.
The explosion goes on in the test site.
And then seeing him. Yeah.
And then it turns into Bruce choking her.
Yeah.
So these two guys being very linked in her mind, despite the fact that they seem very different.
This is true.
Yeah. So Bruce is visited by a homeless Grundle man.
Who claims to be his father.
I know I can see that you know it's true.
Yeah.
This made me think like this is like a scam or something. Or
right.
just like people could just go to the hospitals and do this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of terrifying. But
well, sure. You need to hit on an orphan though, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't know. I guess he's not even an orphan. He's like, what are you talking about? I was raised by these people. They're
right.
my
Like he knows
family.
they weren't his biological
Right.
parents, but he also doesn't care.
Right. My parents died in an accident or
this
whatever.
isn't your last name. Your last name is
Audio
Doctor.
boom.
Yeah.
Doctor. Your last name is Doctor.
Yeah, come on.
David Doctor.
So he starts.
Yeah,
edging
he
him
just
on.
goes right in. He's
Right.
just like, I'm your dad, DNA experiments, you know, like, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's so preposterous.
But then he leaves him, right?
Yeah. I feel like he also has an early combo with Betty around there, doesn't he?
He does. I think it's in the lab. Isn't it when they're at the lab late one night?
Yeah.
And he goes like,
I can see what he sees in you,
Yeah.
falling into those eyes.
and she's like, I'm sorry, you're the new janitor, right?
No, I'm your ex-boyfriend's father.
I might be a mad scientist.
What's going on?
So
You up?
Bruce turns into the Hulk pretty quickly after this.
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of like Bruce is having the nightmares. The first time you see the Hulk is like 30 minutes in. There's that one shot of him standing in the shadowy doorway.
Yes.
And then at minute 40, it's like he's at the lab. And I think that's when it is that Nolte starts needling him, right? Because Nolte's there when he hulks out for the first time.
Is he there? I feel like he then leaves and then Bruce hulks out, smashes some stuff, and then wakes up at home. Like it's all in like himself.
But Nolte's there
definitely,
because there's the moment where Nolte comes face to face with him. And he goes like,
It's beautiful, my son.
Yeah.
That's in the
that's
first
the
Hulk.
first one? Okay, yeah, okay.
with the
I mean,
lab.
obviously Nolte is trying to see like, is there something like, you know, was I right? Like, is this the monster I thought right? He's like looking to see if he can harness Bruce's mutation.
Right. And it is like it's an upsetting sequence. Like I think the key to the Hulk dramatically, and the reason why I contend, like everyone always talks about wanting a Ruffalo solo Hulk. I love the Ruffalo Hulk. It's really fun. It works really well. They got the characterization down pat. The reason he keeps on working is because they're not making him the lead of his movies.
Yeah.
The problem with the Hulk narratively is that you don't want to see him turn into the Hulk.
Sure.
If the Hulk is told well, you want to be upset when Bruce Banner loses control, which is antithetical to the fact that you've shown up to see the Hulk out and smash stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's always true, but I think that is the best version. Like, you know, because
I
there's
think if you care
Hulk
about Bruce
stories.
as a character,
No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But like, you know, there's Hulk stories where, and these are usually cheesier ones, where you're kind of like, oh, I really would love the Hulk to smash all these evil people. You know, like where Bruce is being bothered in some way. I also like and it's a classic Peter David type story where it's like Bruce is like, you know what? No, I've cracked the code. I've figured it out. And I'm going to get rid of the Hulk. I'm going to do it. And you're like, no, you aren't.
Yeah.
The Hulk is you, bitch. And so you kind of want him to turn into the Hulk. You want him to go crazy, but that's years into
that's
a
what I'm saying.
myth.
The difficult balancing act is, I think it's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
I think dramatically you both do and don't want him to turn to the Hulk. You as an audience member want to see the Hulk crack skulls.
Yeah.
And you as an audience member, you want to care enough about Bruce that you feel bad for him every time Hulk takes control.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's got to be a Wolfman thing. I mean, that's the character this is closest to, because the Wolfman, all the Universal monsters were rooted in sort of basic psychological fears.
Yep.
And the Wolfman one is, what if I don't know what's inside of me? What if I can't control myself?
And also that classic nightmare of waking up in the morning and
Not
you're like,
knowing.
how did I get here and what did I do?
Right. It's alcoholism. It's
Right.
any sort of addiction.
Exactly.
It's any sort of mental illness. It's that loss of control.
And I wonder if they'll do a Hulk story, like MCU, like if they'll ever do it.
So apparently Universal still has solo rights.
No, they have like right of first refusal or something. I think it's something like that. But again, it would be like a linked deal. You know, like
it would be sort of
Marvel
like the
has
Sony
the right
Spider-Man thing.
I think it's even less intense than that. But yes, Universal has some kind of, like, they released the Incredible Hulk,
Right.
But that was before Marvel was like bought by Disney.
Right. Because Marvel at that point,
They would contract with the studio for like one release.
right.
Yeah.
So do you know, not to get back to this thing,
Please.
but I just think this is a fascinating thing. So like early 90s, Toy Biz has to buy Marvel to save Marvel.
Yeah.
And
Marvel.
save Marvel. I'm
No.
sorry.
Save them.
And place their heads at the top of the Marvel pyramid, right?
Right.
In 2005, when Feige was like, I think we can make the movies ourselves,
Right.
and made that pitch to like Perlmutter, the way they got the money to do that,
Yeah. Go on.
they took out a massive
Yes,
loan
we talked
from Merrill
about that.
Lynch,
They take the giant Merrill Lynch loan. Yeah.
where
It's like a financing plan, basically.
if the first two movies had flopped, Merrill Lynch would have owned.
We've talked
those
about it
characters.
on this very podcast.
But you know, the other thing they did was
What?
Toy Biz, which still owned Marvel,
Right.
lost the rights to make Marvel toys because they went to Hasbro, who they knew could give them a bigger upfront payment.
Right.
So Marvel made greater profits yearly from making the toys themselves, but they could go to Hasbro and Hasbro could give them $500 million.
Yeah, Hasbro could buy the rights for a long time. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
So then Toy Biz no longer exists because it was like Marvel needed to sell the thing that bought it in order to save themselves.
Yes.
Full circle. Anyway.
He wakes up in bed, doesn't know what happened, knows something's up.
Right. Well, Betty finds him. I think like
Betty finds him.
that's a big point, is that it's not the moment of Bruce waking up and where am I? This is when the movie really starts to recenter around Betty's point of view.
Mhm.
She's the one driving the story.
Yeah.
So she comes to goes to come, whatever.
Whatever the- what
checks
is
in
she-
on him.
Marvo.
Marvo. And she sees him shredded, purple pants, passed out in his bed.
True.
And then there's a great cut to like a plate of greasy chicken and him eating it with his fingers.
I like that. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And
where
she's
he's like,
kind of just looking at him like a feral animal.
Yeah.
Which very quickly, like, the fucking SWAT team comes in. The police come in.
Yeah. So,
They find his wallet at the lab.
Ross is on his ass. I
Yeah.
think Ross thinks initially he's collaborating with Hobo Banner.
Yes, he does.
But
Because it keeps on going like, it's impossible that he's doing the exact same experiments as his father. Why am I doing Nolte?
Yeah, you're doing Nolte.
It's impossible that he's doing the exact same
Custer
experiment.
was a pussy.
God. Fucking Sam Elliott's mustache is so clean in this movie. I can never get over how sharply it's
Right.
trimmed.
Because in like Lebowski, it's sort of inched
Long
all
and
the way
droopy.
over
He's
his
got the
lip.
cowboy
right.
stash.
Right.
And in this, it's like the
Sarsaparilla.
straightest mustache line.
Yeah.
But they find his wallet at the lab. I love the lab sequence because it is just like kind of upsetting. It's just like a monster sequence, you know?
Yeah.
And they bring him in for questioning.
Right.
And
is
Ross,
this when they lock him in the water tank? Or is
Not
that
yet.
that's
That
after?
comes
That's
later.
after second hulking.
Right.
Right.
Ross refuses to believe that he's this ignorant, that
Yeah.
he's this naive.
He
And is
figures it out eventually.
But he's sort of prodding him and saying like,
It's impossible you don't remember. You were 4 years old. You were right there.
Yeah, he
You know?
mentions the test, like the bomb test.
right, and clearly also mentions like the mother thing. He's like prodding that as well.
Yeah.
I love, he says, there's the conversation he has with Betty where he goes,
You're telling me he's following in his father's footsteps, doing the exact same thing in the exact same space. Either they're in on it or, and she goes, what? You think it's, it's predestined? And he goes, I was going to say damned. And she goes, of course you would.
Yeah.
But I love that notion of just like, either way, we're dealing with a big problem. Like, he's like, either this is like the gods are trying to destroy us through this family, or they're in on it together.
Right.
So it becomes this thing with like the government now trying to figure out how to get a handle on.
But I like that the government in this, you're on their side, apart from Talbot. Talbot's just sort of
Talbot
like
sucks.
Straightforward asshole. Who's like, what if I could make money off the Hulk? Where you're like, okay, yeah, good move.
Cool,
That'll work.
Yeah.
This is obviously something to replicate.
Yeah.
But I like Ross. I don't know. I feel like sometimes in these movies when they're like, bring in the helicopters and shoot missiles at them, you're like, Godzilla's not going to be killed by missiles. Like, you guys should know that. Here you get every escalation.
100%.
You're with them. And this is also weirdly coming out right when the Iraq War has started, and all those scenes, we'll get to them with the cluster bombs and stuff.
Yeah,
I remember were very chilling for me as a 17-year-old in the theater. Yeah, where you've been watching like us blow up Baghdad all day.
Right, like right as we're going into war, you have all these like military scenes that take place in the desert, which is like even if it's the American desert,
it's intense.
All the big set pieces at the end take place in like just big open like sandy plains and mountains and stuff like that. Which is very bizarre.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
And it's also the opposite of like now every Marvel movie is like shot in a parking lot in Atlanta.
Yeah, I know.
With like green screens, or it's like a generic type of set they have.
Right.
You're at an airplane, like fucking landing field or whatever it is. And this is just like these like big Western vistas where they like CGI in the Hulk jumping around.
I wish they did more.
Yeah. But the thing I love is, I think Ross never becomes mustache twirly. He always is a character, even if you are concerned about what he wants to do to the Hulk, you get where he's coming from. And as I said, I think Sam Elliott really smartly plays the limitations of his empathy.
Yes.
Like, it's not that he's cruel, it's that he knows that he's not very good at connecting to these things emotionally.
Now, can we talk about those Hulk hounds?
Yeah. So Nolte's
We're
also
from the comic, right? Like that's a comic book idea.
But like they took a lot of very sort of like small threads from the comic book.
Because we've met Banner's dogs already.
Right.
Where he's like, shush, they're beautiful.
And
it's like a weird poodle who looks like it just ate a homeless person.
And he's taken one of Bruce's hairs from the bicycle helmet, maybe?
That sounds right.
And you see him like chopping it up. But now that he's seen that Bruce, like he's triggered Bruce successfully.
Yeah.
I just love that moment where it's like Nolte stroking Hulk's face.
To
my son. Like, because it's like, you're my son of here. And he points to his like heart and he's like, but also of here.
Right, because he created this thing.
Right. Yeah. It's like, it is like, you're my experiment.
But, when he did it in the 60s or whatever, he felt bad about it. Like, he's bummed out that he did that.
He wanted to murder Bruce as a mercy killing.
Exactly.
Like, I have burdened my son.
And now he's just like, he's so far gone, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, it's like 25 years in jail, everyone, discrediting his work, abandoning his mission. Like, he needs the validation to think that he was actually onto something.
He thought he'd be fulfilled by janitor work, but like, it just wasn't doing it for him. He didn't know how to mop.
Yeah. So once he sees Bruce like fully successfully Hulk out, then he's like, I'm gonna make some dogs. Where's that poodle at?
So I remember when
Careful, they don't bite.
When I saw this in theaters in 2003, I was 17. And the movie had a terrible reputation.
Awful.
By the time I think even reached Britain, like
especially with teenage boys. Like this movie was hated by teenage boys.
It was.
Because I saw it early, went to all my friends and was like, get ready. The Hulk fucks. Like this movie rules.
You saw like a screening or something?
I saw like an early screening, and the level of vitriol I got, like
people were mad at you.
It significantly hurt my social standing. How much I sold the Hulk to everyone. They were like, you're a fucking nerd and a loser. You're beyond saving.
Yeah, right.
You lied to us.
You liar. Because this movie came out a month later in Britain, which especially back then is not that unusual.
No, it came out July here, August
It came out June and July. And so it had already had the notorious second weekend drop off.
Which
Like
was,
I was
like,
already aware of that.
Unprecedented.
Exactly.
At that
So
point in
I
time.
was
Yeah.
like, basically, like, this movie's going to be shitty. Then I saw it and was surprised by 1, how much I liked it.
Yeah.
2, how weird it was.
So
3,
weird.
all those comic book transitions ruled.
Yeah.
But I do remember at 17 being like, the fucking scene with the dogs though was rough.
Love the dog scene.
Yeah.
I love it. I think the dogs look great.
They look weird.
I love how fucking gross they look. I love the audacity of him being like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make a fucking Hulk poodle.
He makes a Hulk poodle and like a Hulk. What do you call that? It's like the sort of pit bully. What is this? You know what I mean? This thing. Smokey.
A pit bull sounds right. Maybe no, not Rottweiler.
It's not. It's like a weird looking fucking dog. I don't know.
But I love that they almost look like rat finky. Like they're so weird and they're sort
So
of like
weird.
lumpy muscles and they're like exaggerated features.
And his idea is to like draw the Hulk out by attacking Betty with the Hulk hounds, right?
he's
Why
using
does he
Betty
just,
as
like point a gun at her?
bait
Seems like a lot of work.
because it's a movie and this is cool.
I know.
And also
he might not be able to afford a gun. Like, he's got
He's
a lot
also
of
like
science
looking
equipment.
for a good avenue to premiere these dogs. He's proud
I
of his
know.
new work.
So the Hulk like
This is
kills
like
those
his
dogs.
Apple-
PS.
He can't do an Apple keynote presentation where he's like, and now I present the Hulk dog.
Yeah, he can't
And
do a
then
TED
hits
talk.
the next slide. Yeah.
right.
But yeah, she's in the car, the dogs attack, and the Hulk comes out. I love this movie setting up the idea of the Hulk getting bigger, the angrier he gets.
Yeah.
This scene also is you saying the purple pants look dumb, which I agree they do, although I love how purple he makes them.
I like how purple they are. They just do look like CGI. Like I
So-
wish they could look a little more fabricy.
What I have heard is that Ang Lee wanted the Hulk to be naked the whole movie. And
Good
in
one.
this scene, after his final growth, his pants rip off
Right.
and they use shadows.
Yeah.
Because when he walks away at the end, you see Hulk's butt.
Yeah.
And the idea was that his pants hit a breaking point. He wanted to do the entire movie like that, where it was like through shadows, through camera angles, through objects, you just covered up the Hulk's genitals.
That would be dumb.
Right. And that was the thing. They were just like, this is too silly. Like it
It would
starts
be silly.
straining
Like
credibility.
Beowulf has that scene
Right.
where like it's like he's fighting Grendel and like there's a fucking candle in front of his
and
dick and you're
it-
like, enough.
It's the opening credits of Spy Who Shagged Me. It feels like a comedy
No,
routine.
it's never
Yeah.
good.
No.
I mean, and like honestly, and then Watchmen was like, yeah, we're just gonna have you see his dick, and we're
Yeah.
like, I don't think that's really better. Like then it's just sort of like you're kind of like, no, you're like,
it's
eh.
twisted.
It's a little twisted. His dick, yeah, they had to straighten that thing out.
And yeah, I remember like being like, Dr. Manhattan is circumcised. He's a radiation being.
Yeah.
like what did he like?
Hey, don't push your politics on me, buddy.
Anyway, so
I love how brutal the Hulk dog fight is because it's like he
he squishes their
dogs
necks
in the face, like ripping them in half.
exactly.
I love that it's terrifying.
It's very dark though. It is a little hard to see some of the action.
Yeah.
Like it's nighttime.
right, but it lends that like horror movie feel to it. Like none of these Hulk out sequences are exciting. You know, like I remember the audience like, oh, like at some of the dog stuff just because of how brutal it was. But it's like watching like a UFC match or something. Like that's a lot of blood. And then there's the great moment where then he just looks like a sad little boy at the end of like a tantrum where he tries to like pick her up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
out of the tree.
It's good. I mean, I like the Hulk as character.
I
in
think the
this movie.
performance is good.
Yeah,
Like I think
agree.
they make
agree.
the Hulk a tangible sort of character. I think he's well composited into the world. Watching this movie on Blu-ray, it like makes me miss when you had to print CGI on film. Like when you would shoot a 35 millimeter movie, do the digital effects, and then have to print that back onto film because it lends a sort of viscerality and it kind of unites the elements as opposed to when everything's digital.
Yeah.
It gets that color forms thing I've talked about, which the Norton movie has hardcore.
Right.
In this, it's like he never looks like a real thing because of how stylized he is and the limitations of the technology, but I think he always feels tangible. Like I always buy him as a real character, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Which is more important to me.
Yeah.
But after that one,
He unhulks.
right.
They catch him. That's when they put him in the water
She
tank.
calls Ross.
Yeah.
They show up, sleep dart him, put him in the tank, bring him over to the desert. They weirdly do the like Black Hawk Down, like Middle Eastern, like
They do, which they
and you're like, aren't you in New Mexico? Like,
why do they do that?
it's like the California desert or something, right?
Yeah, it's like Utah or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like the American plains.
And it is. I mean, I've literally made a joke. We've talked about this on the pod, but yeah, it is always so funny. Any movie set in the Middle East, it's just. And it's always like some helicopter shot. And it's like dun 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 dun, and then
you hear in the distance.
And remember Heroes, the TV show was on right now?
Yeah.
And that was like they made some decision where they were like, that's gonna be the whole score. It's just some lady yodeling.
Yeah. Well, that's apparently the stuff that Michael Dania did. Like his whole score was like Japanese drumming and that sort of like choral chanting.
Sure.
And then he saw the movie and he's like, that's what they kept of my work? And he was like, yeah, Danny Elfman just liked it that he didn't even redo it. He just kept it in as is.
Wow.
And he's like, that stuff made the cut? But they bring him down there and then like Talbot sort of is able to wrestle control of the case.
Yes.
And he, at this point, we missed the Talbot Hulk out scene. That's before the dogs, right?
Well, he
What?
makes him Hulk out,
right?
And because he gets the information from his father on the phone that he's like, let these dogs loose.
Right, exactly. That's what it is.
Talbot basically makes him Hulk out. They have that like fight scene, and then goes to the dogs.
That's the same hulking.
Yeah.
But in the process, he fucking pwns Talbot.
Yes.
So then I love like Talbot coming back as this like comic like
he's got like the crutch and the neck brace. He's got like all the stuff if you want to like file like a claim against someone, if you're like an ambulance chasing lawyer where you're like, Your Honor, as you can see, I was very injured.
Like the perfect amount of cuts on his face.
When that mail truck rolled over my foot.
And so he's like, look, if I get you to Hulk out, they give me permission to kill you. I dissect you. We figure out how to make more of you.
Right.
And I make money.
Right.
If you don't Hulk out, then I just get to fuck with you.
Yeah.
So either way, I win. And at this point, he's like, right at first, he's just in, I'm trying to remember the order of the thing. Because there's in the water tank. Oh, that's what happens first. They're trying to drill him. No. I'm sorry. First, he tries to fuck with him just like in the weird steel cylinder room.
Yes.
And then he's like, fine, you can't do it consciously. Let's see if you can do it unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
So then they get him in the water tank and try to like prod him psychologically.
Yeah.
He starts having his nightmares. He starts
you're
recovering
having
his
these
repressed
recurring
memories.
dreams of, yes, exactly.
And that's when he remembers, right? No, because it's...
No, because David is the one who
it.
explains that he actually killed the mother.
Yeah.
Like by mistake.
Right. It was like they just became one.
It's quite a line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, and it's like that line, which I guess is a little later, but like that's a line when 80% of the theater is like, get the fuck out of here.
What
like
am I
really
watching?
like, come on.
Yeah.
They became one.
Yeah.
David, I'm sorry to interrupt the flow of the show. I just have to call something out. Ben?
Yes.
You're kind of creeping me out today.
What?
Well, it feels like you're leaning a little heavy on the peeper thing. And it feels like you're creeping me out, and I would like it if you could give me some space and give me some privacy, okay?
Well, I'm doing my job.
Can you just give me privacy for like 60 seconds?
Yeah.
All I'm asking for is 60 seconds of privacy.
Okay, all right, I'll leave the room.
Okay, thank you. Okay, listen, guys, now that Ben is gone, we've all heard a lot about privacy policies in the past month or so, right? But have you heard about a company being proud of their privacy policy? Bet you haven't, but guess what? We transfer. They're all about making file sharing easier for everyone. And worrying about your privacy is the opposite of that. I know because I've been dealing with Ben all week. So they don't sell.
You want me to...
Ben, please, okay. 60 seconds of privacy.
All right.
It's not about you, okay? Listen, the folks at WeTransfer, they don't sell user data the way that Ben does. They don't snoop or spy on your files the way that Ben does. Sometimes I walk into the office and Ben's just adjusting the levels on our files, editing our episodes. I go, what are you doing, you snoop? You spy? And guess what? They don't want to know your shoe size. They don't want to know your soft drink preference, your shopping history. Questions Ben pesters me with constantly. He's sliding into my DMs like gift field, asking me if I like Sprite or Fanta. Okay, this is the headline, okay? And I say this in confidence to you, my friends, the Blankies. WeTransfer serves ads to keep their service free, but never in that creepy, I was just talking about blenders 20 minutes ago, and now I'm seeing ads for blenders kind of way. And that's a problem we have in our podcast because we talk about blenders a lot. Shout out to Alex Ross Perry. In fact, they reserve 30% of their ad space to showcase the work of artists, like directors who are given blank checks. Sometimes they clear and sometimes they bounce, baby, from around the world. It's their way of making the internet a nicer, simpler, more beautiful place. So start sending files and see what they stand for at we.tl/not creepy. You make WeTransfer. If you're trying to remember the name of that website, it's we.tl/ and then just think the opposite of Ben. Okay, Ben, you can come back in here.
Right. God.
Wait a second. What's that empty glass you're holding? Were you holding a glass up to the other side of the door and listening to our conversation?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
But I'm not creepy.
A thing I love about this movie, and I love almost everything about this movie, but a thing I love about it is so small and focused in terms of the dramatics.
Right.
You don't have superfluous characters.
Yeah.
It really kind of just is these 5 people. And most of it's just the 4 of them. It's like this quartet of like 2 kids and their bad dads, you know?
Unite the 4.
And there are like so few, like even like Daniel Day Kim is like the 8th lead of this movie because he has 3 exposition lines.
Right.
You know, like you could do this movie as like a black box play, save for the Hulk sequences.
Yeah, and like honestly, it is a little bit of that, in the final act,
Which I love.
Yeah, well, we're getting to that.
Which
I mean, that's the
fucking
best
love.
part.
Right. That's when this movie
That's
becomes
the
like
movie rules.
transcendent for
But
me.
that is also when like the 20% of people left in the theater
Are
who are
already,
not
like, right.
they're like, okay, all right, goodbye. Like,
Right.
You know, like the theater's now empty and it's just Griffin being like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So they prod Hulk. They sort of are drilling him. He has the dream. He started to unlock some of the stuff, and then he hulks out.
Hulks out, starts smashing things.
Totally lose control of
And
him.
I love that Ross is like, the fuck? Like, he's mad that Talbot's been like off the leash here.
And he's also like complained to Betty about the fact that it's out of his control now, that he doesn't know what to do.
And Talbot has those frosted tips.
Yeah.
You just know he's bad.
Yeah, which only 2,000 kids will remember.
So they do the foam thing. The foam thing is great. Love
Yeah,
that foam.
doesn't work.
Yeah, Talbot's like, give me the comically oversized drill.
Yeah.
But I feel like the foam, because with science fiction, like sometimes predicts real like technology. I feel like that could
that's
be
a-
a thing.
Oh,
yeah.
it's a
used.
thing.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
And it's
right?
like the Incredibles goo balls too.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like you just
Yeah.
got to slow them down. You can't really stop them.
It's like the new rubber bullet or something.
But I love how
Right.
Talbot's like, big drill won't work. I know what I'll do. I'll shoot a grenade at his face.
Yeah.
Like in an enclosed space. He's an idiot.
And then his most audacious visual moment
It's
is
so good.
the explosion
yeah.
where
And you, like,
Talbot
zoom
goes
out of the
flying.
panel.
He freeze frames, and then you zoom out and you see like the whole page of all the
so
different panels.
good.
So here's the thing. I
And like, I feel like
Yeah.
they hadn't done a frame trick in a while.
No.
And he's like, remember? Like, because, that's still going on.
because they'll use it for transitions. They use it a little bit when he's being transported from the
yes.
helicopter.
Yeah.
But like a couple of times early in the movie, it's just for dialogue scenes.
Yeah.
Like when Talbot sees Betty. And in comics, because it's like we got to keep the kids' attention.
Yeah.
You don't want to do the equivalent of like shot, reverse shot coverage.
Sure.
Like, A, you don't want to have that much just sort of straight dialogue. You don't want to stay in any scene for that long.
Okay.
And B, if you're going back and forth between characters, if you start here at like a medium close-up, the next time you go back to that character, you want an extreme close-up with their teeth gritted, or now they're like purple.
Yeah, no,
like,
I
know?
get you.
So when he breaks it down like that, A, it's like a deconstruction of how similar comics and film are in terms of like us just accepting these weird, pushy, like visual storytelling styles. But B, it's like this is a way to make kind of generic, not generic, but like kind of staid adult conversation scenes as pulpy as...
And, comic books are like that sometimes.
Yeah, 100%.
They have to make state conversation scenes pulpy.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's
Which
great.
is what you have to do. Like
I know.
come out with crazy angles and
Yeah.
all of that.
Anglese.
Yes.
More like crazy Anglese.
Crazy angles. So he's hulking out now, losing control, breaks out of the facility.
Yep, kills Talbot. I mean, Talbot
Right.
Talbot kills himself.
And he starts leaping across
Yeah.
the desert.
Which again is something that the Leterrier movie never thought to do, which is like weird because that's the most classic Hulk thing.
Yeah.
Is the leaping. That he bounds around.
But I love for him, it's like a weird, like there's a serenity to it.
Yeah.
There's that moment where he's like flying through the sky and the wind is blowing against his face.
I love
and he just
it.
closes his eyes.
I love this stuff. This is where the movie is like just singing for me. And like I love that part. And then I love that there's like weird, creepy cluster bombs that like suck the air out of the room
And I think these
out of
Hulk
the space.
fights are really good.
Yeah, this part's good. This part's just good.
Yeah, and it's just like really spare, like broad daylight Hulk in the desert fighting tanks. But then there's also that moment where he's like contemplative and he looks at the rock and it keeps on fading, like cross-fading from his face to like closer looks at like the moss on the rock, where he's just like considering the elements. And it's like, no one will ever let anyone make this again. Ever.
We should say that cross-cutting with this, David Banner's like, well, maybe I'll do something else. And he turns himself into the Absorbing Man.
Right.
Where if like he touches like a boombox, like his hand turns into a boombox.
Yeah. Right. And I love that, like the bit of his hand getting stuck in the metal and trying to figure out how to shake his hand off. But that's like
going to make going to the bathroom pretty awkward.
Yeah, his whole body turns into a penis when he touches it.
I was thinking he sits on the toilet, becomes the toilet.
Oh,
but
yeah.
That works
It's just funny because the Absorbing Man, who he sort of is,
right? Just in terms of power,
who's mostly a Thor villain, is like one of the dumbest. Like I literally like in terms of IQ,
he's
Marvel
a
villains.
Bruiser.
He's like an idiot, and his thing
like
is like, I'll turn into metal. That'll kill Thor.
He's like
and
a
Thor's
prison
like, I'm a
inmate.
god. FYI.
Fuck you.
You seem to have forgotten this. His name's like Crusher Creel. He's like
and he
he's
looks
fun.
like it.
Yeah,
Right.
he's got like a big bony like caveman head.
He is visually based off of Michael Berryman, who's the character
from
who plays
the Hills Have Eyes. Right.
Yeah, the mutant freak.
Right.
Guy from that film. So Hulk, military, Ross is like, we gotta take everything we got out on him. And Betty's like reasoning with her father to not do this. And he's like, this isn't an emotional thing. This isn't like a Thunderbolt thing. This is like a human casualty civilian thing.
Yeah.
They call the president. They're like, what are you, casualties? They're going to be casualties because of this fucking thing?
Yeah.
Well, the president's fly fishing. So they like, give him permission to send in the jet, send in everything.
Yeah, they cluster bomb him.
Right. And it's Hulk just
They
trying to get
fucking daisy
everyone
cutter
off
his
his back.
ass.
And so quickly it gets to like San Francisco because he's able to
He
like
bounds.
just like bound. I like that you have the moment where he saves the people on the bridge. Because you just have a little bit of like, okay, this is where they could have gone in sequels with the Hulk learning how to save people. Because otherwise, this is not a superhero movie in any way. And then they finally are able to drop the real bomb, which is Betty, who calms him down.
Right.
He Banner's back and submits himself.
Yeah, Thunderbolt at this point
Surrenders.
is like, you need to die.
Right.
Like, unfortunately.
But also at this point,
yes,
David Banner has gone to Betty.
Nick Nolte.
And is like, look, I know I'm doomed. You can get him down. All I ask is that you let me see my son before they kill him.
Now, you need this scene because otherwise the idea that they'd be executed facing each other is stupid.
Right.
But I guess they pull it off. It's
And it
comic
also,
booky. I don't
they
know.
literally shoot it like a black box theater. Like they're in
I
this
know.
big hangar under
know.
like one spotlight.
What are they going to do to them? Like, are they going to electrocute them? Or like, what's the plan? Like, how are they actually going to kill them?
I don't know.
Are they going to gas them maybe?
I don't know
think-
if it's clarified.
Yeah.
But they're in this incredibly dramatic looking set, but also really sparse. And it's like the two of them up against like just black abyss.
Yes, and then Nick Nolte like does a monologue from Secret Honor, practically.
Right.
Like, he starts ranting and raving.
And then there's the great moment when like Banner starts hulking out but doesn't actually turn green, and then Nolte mocks him and is like, boogity, boogity, boogity.
I mean,
Which at
Nolte
this
is
point-
so phenomenal in
Right.
this scene.
At this
And
moment
again,
in
at
the
same
theater,
time, the whole theater is exiting the rows.
Right.
Right. Yeah. This
Right.
is like fucking irreversible right now. Right. Like,
but like 14-year-old Griffin's sitting in the theater going like, oh, that's crazy. The best supporting actor's locked up this early. Like I was sitting there and I was like, slam dunk. Nolte's taking it cakewalk.
yeah. Yeah.
And he's
Nolte.
trying to get Banner to like fucking,
to Hulk out. But I mean, it's this very like verbose monologue with all this like insane like biblical insults. Like, what does he say? I wish I could.
And he talks a lot about he explains killing the mother.
Yes, that's when he explains killing the mother.
But it's not working. And he goes like, fine, I'll just take care of it myself.
And then he
bites the rubber off of an electric cable.
Right,
and
let's talk about this. He literally chews the scenery.
And Ross is like, no, let him do it.
Yeah, which, by the way, no, headshot at this point.
Yeah.
But I guess they don't know that he has the powers.
Yeah.
But yeah, right. He's like, all right, that's not going to work. I'll just turn into electricity.
Now, the thing I forgot as I was watching this last night is this happens 2 hours and 2 minutes into the movie.
There's still 20 minutes
They don't even get to that point until 2 hours in.
Yeah.
And now it becomes this fight that is almost non-literal.
It's a non-literal fight.
Abstract fight sequence.
Is this the part that you missed, Ben? Like, because you had to rush over here?
Yeah.
I mean, he fights his dad, but it's like, no, he's actually just fighting his father issues.
Yeah, it's a Freudian
they
finale.
literally like go through the clouds.
That's
and
the
they're
thing
like,
that's the best.
Yeah, right.
Where it's like these flashes of him in the clouds.
Right.
Like,
And the idea is supposed to be that it's like the lightning illuminating him, but it also feels like they're fighting through their entire history.
Yes. It's so good.
And whatever
No
he
one
tries
would
to do,
dare
he
do
can't
this
escape
again.
his father. Like his father becomes the water and becomes the air and electricity and like rock Nolte.
It's the fucking best. Yeah. And everyone is watching this and thinking like, I can't follow this. This is visually weird. Like, you know,
because he rarely takes a very
ending.
solid form that's easy to track.
No.
And then they turn into ice. Like, they start absorbing all the elements. He turns into a jellyfish cloud of energy.
You also, I guess, and I guess if you want to be like fair about the criticisms, like, you don't really know what the dad even wants at this point. Like, what is he looking for? I don't know what his like motivations are.
I mean, that's why he keeps on saying, well, no,
he's gonna like suck the Hulk up, right?
That's
like,
the big. He wants to be unstoppable. He wants to be proven correct in everything he committed his life to doing, right?
Yeah.
And in that quest, he has also now become obsessed with what that power feels like for him.
Yeah.
And the one thing he realizes is he has all this power, but his body cannot contain it. He needs the stability of the Hulk genes, which he can only get from his son.
Right.
So he wants to absorb his son. He wants to fully swallow his son.
But then he does, and that kills him.
Yes, 100%.
So, you know.
Right.
Fuck you, Dad.
Yeah, I mean, he's like a mad scientist character. He's like wrong.
Right.
Yeah. But massive explosion. I mean, they literally turn to this jellyfish.
Yeah.
And then everyone presumes that Bruce is dead.
Right.
And it cuts to a year later. Betty and Ross having a conversation on the phone. I mean, like, for so much of this movie, it's like Betty is the emotional track for all of this.
You're right. I mean, I didn't think about that so much when I was rewatching it, but you're right. Like it does its best with Betty.
Yeah.
Like rather than marginalizing her like the Leterrier movie does.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have this conversation about like if there's been any sign of him, you know.
Yeah. So this is the only thing I just don't like.
The ending?
Yeah.
The ending is very like
it's very the TV show, I guess, or something where it's like, and now he's decided after like obviously being like a monster that should be like thrown into fucking space.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll just go to the South American jungle and fight a militia. Like, you wouldn't like me when I'm angry? Okay. Well, is he going to smash Venezuela? Like, what's his plan?
Humanitarian work?
He's got to live somewhere, David.
No, him doing humanitarian work would be him, like, just literally going to live on the moon.
Yeah.
And staying away from humanity.
Well, that's what, like, Ruffalo Hulk tries to do.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, that's a classic comic book trope. But, like, Ruffalo Hulk tries to do it because he doesn't want to hurt a person he loves.
Right.
But in that movie, the Hulk is scary.
Yeah.
He smashes things.
Uh-huh.
But there is some concept of like, well, he's sort of aware of it. And like, there's a balance between these two people. But in this movie, the Hulk's like an environmental disaster. There's no, like, we don't think he's going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like after the fight with his dad.
Now, here's a thing do
you think Universal was just like, you know, leave some room for a sequel? Maybe this will be a big hit.
100%.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And they hire Zach Penn to write a sequel before the movies even come out.
Yeah.
And he writes a sequel that picks up with Bruce in Nicaragua.
Great.
That featured him fighting the Abomination.
Sure. Classic Hulk villain. Right?
Uh-huh.
What is that villain?
He's basically just like, what if
Bad
an asshole sort of had Hulk powers? You know, like he's like
Hulk Venom or whatever.
I think when he was
like twisted version. But he's like just he's a guy who morphs into a big.
But also, I think, at least in the comics, he's Soviet. You know, like
Yes,
he's like a Cold
He's
War
like
villain.
Russian,
So it's sort of right. Like, what if the Soviets recreated the Hulk experiment? Yeah.
But that was a film that was always like, well, the movie made a profit, but everyone hated it, so maybe we'll make it someday. I don't think we'd bring Ang Lee back, but maybe we'd make a straight sequel with Eric Bana. Like, it was always kind of a consideration.
Yeah.
Then Marvel gets the rights back, goes to Universal, says, we'd love to make a Hulk movie, folded into this thing. And they still pretty much use the Zach Penn script.
Yeah, they do.
They rewrite it a little bit.
And not only do they use the Zach Penn script, which Edward Norton does a lot of rewriting on, and demands a credit and doesn't get it, and it's very fraught.
Which is why he gets pushed off of the Avengers, because they had so much difficulty working with him.
But not only that, Zach Penn's hired to write an Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Which apparently Joss Whedon has publicly said, like,
was bad.
Oh, it was very bad, and I threw it away.
Yeah.
You know, like, but he has like a story credit on that film.
Because he went in to meet just to direct it, and he was like, first of all, I'm not directing this.
Yeah.
Like, this is terrible. But the thing I love is that, like, nothing in the Norton Hulk really negates the Ang Lee Hulk. It's pretty much a sequel.
The Norton Hulk is weirdly a sequel to this movie.
Right.
Which is impossible.
Yes.
Like, and it's not like in the Norton Hulk, they're like, it was crazy how my dad turned into a cloud. They forget that stuff. But the basic concept of, like, I was a scientist. I used to date Betty Ross. Thunderbolt Ross is a military guy. You know what I mean? That's all kept.
It picks up in the same country that the first movie ends in.
No, I think it picks up in Brazil.
Really? Okay.
Yes. I just rewatched it and I don't even quite remember, but I think it's Brazil. But anyway, you know, like, yeah, it is Brazil because there's like favela stuff. You know,
South America. He's going around.
There's like a sort of vague like parkour scene, which like was a demand in 2000, like the late 2000s, where they were like,
bring parkour back.
Yeah. Ben wants par more.
Oh boy.
But I love that, like, as much as Incredible Hulk is the one they fold into the MCU the least, you can kind of act like Ang Lee's Hulk is part of the MCU.
You can. Kind of.
You kind of can.
Kind of.
You kind of can. It's as connected as Norton is.
They never, ever reference it directly.
No.
The only thing, and like they barely reference the fucking Leterrier movie.
Yeah, right.
But the only reference to that is he mentions like I smashed Harlem one time.
And you have
like,
Thunderbolt Ross.
You have Thunderbolt Ross. But, you know, I mean, he's easy.
But it feels handshakey. But this feels like the last point in time where, like, you know, I was saying, like the Ghostbusters Feig thing is a similar thing where it's like this property we can't get off the ground. Let's just take someone. Fuck it. We've done so many like overly sort of strategic takes at this movie, trying to think through it logically. Let's just take someone who's successful and let them do whatever the fuck they want. At this sort of scale, that will never happen again. And for his impulse to be, I'm going to go to the polar extremes of like, I'm going to make it as adult, serious, dialogue-based as possible and as comic booky and sort of like pulpy and monster movie at the same time is just like a jarring thing that audiences like are not ready for.
Right.
They kind of want one or the other. And they let him make this movie and the movie feels totally of a piece to me. Like that's the thing. It doesn't feel like some misbegotten like, you know, it feels like Robert Altman's Popeye where it's like if you hire a guy to make a popular thing, you still let him do what they do. You don't go, but come on, it's got to be this. And that,
I agree with you completely. I do just want to point out there is Batman Begins after this, which is a similar concept of like, let's let the director run with it.
Right.
You know, and that is a little, obviously trying a little harder.
And his concept is less insane.
It's less insane, but I mean, that's fine. Like, I do think like there's Batman Begins, there's Constantine, well, whatever. You know, I love that movie, but but there's one other one that was obvious too. Oh, Hellboy.
Oh, yes.
You know, so there are some where again, it's sort of like the director has a pitch. He'll do it. But you're right.
Those movies have they all have a far more conventional sort of dramatic structure, though, in terms of a classic superhero movie arc, which this doesn't have because it's a monster movie. I mean, this is the closest anyone's come to doing a successful Dark Universe reboot. Like, this is the template in a way. Because they've always said our problem is how do we make the monsters like the protagonists? How do you do big budget horror films?
I get what you're saying, but yes, go finish your point if you want.
No, I think this is kind of what you do.
I agree. But the thing
to make
to
them
me,
tragic, which all those monster movies are.
The thing to me, and it's like why I'm ranting about the ending of the movie is like there's just nothing in this movie really says like sequels, universes. No. Like what I love about the movie is that that's just not there.
It just wasn't concerned.
No.
I think he wouldn't have done the sequel anyway. They wanted that, and they just were like, Ang Lee's a genius. Everyone loved Crouching Tiger, right? Like, no one seemed to question this while it was going on.
Well, I'm Barry Norman, who in Britain was sort of like Britain's closest answer to Roger Ebert. He was never like, in my opinion, the critic that Ebert was, but he hosted this very famous show on the BBC that was called like Film, you know, and he was the guy who was like, you know, an interesting film, blah, 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 you know, right?
Yeah.
And he retired right around now, like right around when Hulk was in production. And in his retirement statement said, I am so despondent at the idea that Ang Lee, who made the wonderful Crouching Tiger, is making a superhero movie, the Hulk, that like, to me, cinema has died.
Dead. Yeah.
And like, and I remember everyone was like, oh, well, you know, Barry, he's old, like, you know, he's become a grump.
Right.
But like, that was like a prevailing notion among the older critical class. Yes.
But then it's also like, by doing it, he became the last person to be able to do it in that way.
Yes.
Except for my favorite thing is that Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is totally a remake of this, except fun.
Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy is I mean, you know,
it's another father issue movie.
It is. I mean,
and
it's
it also ends like the final battle is fucking.
I know, which I love.
It's like the same
it's him
as
turning
this.
into rocks and shit,
turning into different forms and
know.
like fighting their issues out.
I know. I mean, the Hulk's better, but Guardians 2 is a lot of fun.
But I just sat there and I went, "Holy shit!" James Gunn figured out how to make American audiences like everything.
Make this more enjoyable.
Ang Lee was interested in thematically.
Now,
tonally, it's totally different. Stylistically, it's totally different.
I want to play the box office game.
Yeah. So this movie had a bunch of bad records.
Yeah.
The most expensive movie Universal had made up until that point was the only movie to open this high and not make $150 million.
Interesting.
And never before in history had a movie opened above 20 and dropped
70%. It dropped 70%.
Because usually if a thing drops 70%, it opened poorly.
It was like a horror movie that opened to like 18 or I don't know. Whatever.
Nothing had ever opened this big and dropped that hard that fast.
Hulk
opens to 62.
June 20th, 2003, $62 million. He knows.
And it just doubles it, 130.
It doubles, 132.
Yeah.
Number 2 at the box office is an animated film.
Number 2 at the box office, animated film, 2003, Finding Nemo.
I just figured you'd get it from that.
That's the highest grossing film of that year.
Which in its 4th week is making $21 million. Pretty impressive.
A juggernaut.
Which was the film that beat the Lion King's animated film record.
Correct.
Yes.
It was like the number 6 movie of all time.
Yeah, it was a colossal hit.
Right. That was the big Entertainment Weekly headline was how Nemo beat Neo. Because everyone assumed The Matrix was going to be the bulldozer that summer.
Great movie. 2003. What a year.
Reloaded.
Yes. Number 3 is a sequel. The second film in a long-running franchise that you adore. And that I adore.
2003, second film, long-running... Oh, is it Too Fast, Too Furious?
Too Fast, Too Furious, a John Singleton film.
Yes.
Starring Paul Walker, Tyrese.
Ludacris. Devin Aoki. And Eva Mendes. They got to bring Eva Mendes back. That's
she
so
was
overdue.
Is she in 5
She's in the credits
for a
stinger
second?
for 5.
Yeah.
She reveals that Letty's still alive.
Yeah, I think that would be great to have
Time to bring her back.
Which in 3 weeks has made $102 million. And even though it was seen, I think, as a bit of a franchise killer, was like kind of a hit.
Huge hit. It opened to 50 or 60?
Opened to 50, made 127. So, you know, it fell off.
Yeah, that's a huge opening for that in 2003. Opening. Yeah.
Number 4 is a comedy film. Very expensive, sort of high special effects.
Ooh.
Massive hit. One of those movies that no one remembers that just made a shit ton of money.
In 2003. Is it a big comedy? Oh, I know exactly what it is.
Yes.
Bruce Almighty.
It's Bruce Almighty. An objectively, reprehensibly bad film.
That made $500 million.
Yes. I can't remember one joke from it. It's not good.
Yeah. Huge.
Nothing to say about it. I mean, Carrie's doing his thing.
It's because it hit Christians or something. Right?
No.
It's just where he's I'm God. I'm going to make her tits bigger. He just doesn't have any bits.
It was the last of the big high concept comedies where you could sell it that quickly in a trailer with here are 6 funny images.
Yeah.
But also.
And then Carrie just going blah, 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 blah.
She also hadn't done a comedy in 4 years. That was the big thing was outside of The Grinch, he had been doing Truman Show, Man on the Moon. It was
the Majestic.
Right. Everyone was so excited that Carrie was in a big dumb comedy again that's why it blew up.
I mean, well, you know what? Fun with Dick and Jane and Yes Man both made money, so it wasn't like his last hit.
But
comedy.
that made like $250 million, right?
Yes, it did.
Insane.
Nuts. Number 5 is a remake that, like, I feel like at the time people were like, why the fuck would you remake this movie with these people? But it was like a solid hit, and it's like not a bad movie.
Why would you remake this one with these people? Solid.
I mean, you know what? I grew up in Britain, and the movie's so beloved in Britain that maybe there was more of a backlash in Britain.
Wait, what's up?
I've brought it up several times.
Sorry, we have a hard out, but I just, God, I could dig into this for 2 hours. Okay, 2003, beloved film. Oh, Italian Job.
Italian Job, an F. Gary Gray joint with Mark Wahlberg, Charlize Theron, and
Edward Norton,
who famously dissed this film before it came out in like some interview.
He had a 3-picture
where he was like,
deal
it's a piece of shit
at Paramount, and they forced him to be in the movie, and he hated it, refused to do press, and then shit talked it while doing press for other movies.
And then the movie came out, and like people were like, it's kind of fun, and it did well. Like, he looked like an asshole.
He shot himself in the foot on that one.
Yeah. And like that was the movie that kind of made Statham happen.
Yep.
It was kind of the movie that made Mos Def happen, like as an actor.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I just remember in Britain, it was like Italian Job in Britain is one of those movies where like they don't even know that it's just okay.
Yeah.
They're just like, what are you talking about? Like the 3 greatest movies are The Godfather, Citizen Kane, and The Italian Job.
Right. The idea of replacing
You were
Michael
only supposed
Caine.
to blow the bloody doors off.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that number 5?
That's number 5.
Okay, so that's the box office game.
Rugrats Go Wild.
The weakest of the Rugrats trilogy.
Alex and Emma opening this weekend.
Yeah.
Hollywood Homicide, Dumb and Dumber, When Harry Met Lloyd.
I saw that in theaters.
From Justin to Kelly opens at number 11, $2.7 million. You're fine, I think, for your heart out.
Not really, but
okay.
Let's wrap up.
Merchandise Spotlight. This movie did create one of the greatest pieces of merchandise of all time, which we all know.
Okay.
We all know it. It's one of the few pieces of merchandise that went mainstream and has stayed in production since the release of this film.
I think you're having a laugh.
I'm not.
No, what are you talking about?
Hulk hands.
Yeah, oh, really? They came from this?
They came from this, which is so funny that they come from this movie.
Why did they come from? Like, was it just? I guess someone was like, there should be Hulk hands.
Avi Arad, because he was a toy guy, was so big on licensing and still, running Toy Biz and everything, that their big thing was there had to be a big Marvel movie every year that could be like a toy licensing bonanza.
Yeah.
Which is why like the Tim story of Fantastic Four got rushed into production.
Right.
Something else got pushed back, and it was like, fuck. X-Men, Spider-Man, Hulk, Spider-Man 2, fuck, we need a new... Right. So they just made so much Hulk shit. They thought it was going to be like a Jurassic Park level, like every kid's going to want a Hulk, and they made every type of thing, and it didn't sell super
Except
well.
for the Hulk hands.
The Hulk hands were humongous, and it was this like...
They're very big.
Right, and it was also
he has
like...
big hands.
It was essentially like a new type of toy. Like it created like a whole new category, because then there was a bonanza, and none of them ever worked as well, of making like hands for other characters. There were King Kong hands when that came out. They made Thing hands and feet for Fantastic Four.
Right.
For Shrek, they made ogre hands that were literally pull my finger.
Great.
Where it farted instead of smashing, but they were like the idea of like, that's every kid's perfect toy, is just big foam hands that you can hit things with.
Yeah.
And over time, they've made Hulk hands shittier. They became plush at a certain point. Then they became smaller. They took the electronics out of them. But the original Hulk hands, which are just like big green foam fists with sound boxes in them, and there's like a plastic bar inside so you get a good grip, and you just punch shit and it just goes, "Argh!" Is Hall of Fame, fucking hang it from the rafters, retire it, best merchandise ever. Hulk hands fucking rule, and they came from a somber, meditative family drama about the way our fathers damage us, and us fighting to try to remove that damage from ourselves and make ourselves better people in their wake.
I love how the next movie he makes is Brokeback Mountain.
Yep.
Or he was like, oh, you didn't like Hulk? I guess I'll just make like a blockbuster gay cowboy movie.
Yeah.
Like win an Oscar.
Yeah. Huge. I love the Hulk. I hope people have rewatched it because of this. It's a genuine esoteric film we're never going to get the likes of again. And even if you don't love it, I think people have come around to it more recently.
Give it a watch, guys.
You got to admire this thing.
Oh, yeah.
There's a singularity of vision that is totally unfiltered. That is like what our podcast is about.
It really, it was one of the first movies we wanted to do.
It's
Hulking the Hulk. That was the thing we were always going to do.
Ultimate go-to answer for, what's the like textbook blank check movie.
Absolutely.
You only get to do that if you're in a blank check position.
Absolutely.
And no one questions what you're doing. Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe. Ben, you got something to say?
I think it might be too dumb.
Say it.
Oh, wait, there's a dumb thing you want to do. Don't forget.
We'll do it later. Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about the monster universe, and I had a pitch for our, blank check production company.
Sure, blank check pictures.
So this is, of course.
The slate.
So I was thinking, what if they took all of the monsters and put them in one movie, Unite the Monsters, and you could have like Mummy, right, working in his lab on his Bones computer. And he's fine, he looks.
I was out, and then you said Bones computer.
And then he sees, the Invisible Man robbing a bank, and then, he brings them all together, I guess, to fight the ultimate monster.
What are you talking about?
You know that the original Universal movies build to that. They have, House of Frankenstein. Where
Did they have a Bones computer, though?
No, they didn't have a Bones computer. But they do have those movies where it's, all of them are haunting one house at the same time.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fun.
You never get it from their perspective uniting to fight a bigger monster, but those movies are great.
Yeah.
I say, why make one movie about one monster where you can have all of them together?
No, that's what when all those franchises died out, they put them all in each other's movies.
That's great.
Yeah. Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Dracula. They were all just these giant fucking mashup.
Make it like an Ocean's 11 type thing.
Now you got to stew. Thanks to Ange Fergudo for her social media. Thanks
what's the thing you're gonna do?
I'll tell you later.
Oh.
Joe Bowen and Pat Reynolds for our artwork. Thank you to Lane Montgomery for our theme song. Go to blankies.reddit.com for some real nerdy shit.
Yeah.
And as always,
Uh-huh.
Hulking the Hulk.